Slightly later than expected, but we are here, folks. We had some issues in gorilla position. We had a show prepared and ready to go, and then Bob O'Neill showed up and tore up the whole thing and changed plans on the fly. I look forward to his appearance on Pat McAfee's show to explain it all. But we are here to explain very different things. We are here.
Went into business for himself and said the next Grin Grappler on location is going to be in New Orleans. Didn't run that by anybody.
Yeah. What a moment that is, by the way. Incredible. Are you going back to Vegas, Alex?
At some point in my life, yes, absolutely. I told you though, like that might be my gimmick. I'll just go to Bloodsport and then fly home before WrestleMania.
That's good, yeah. You wear like Pride FC shirts the whole time.
Yeah, my Soccer Robber shirt. Yeah.
We are here to talk about a man who, and you could argue, is more polarizing than ever at the time of doing this show, which is pretty hilarious, honestly, and it's very him that he would manage such a feat here in 2025, a whole 13 years after the match that will kick off our final act here tonight. But we are talking, of course, about The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, the final boss, the people's champion, the Brahma Bull, and things of that nature. Should be a fun one. I think it's going to be a long one. We have a lot to talk about, many different incarnations of The Rock, and I think we got to cover a lot of them here with this lineup, which is a pretty wacky lineup. But for anyone who's wondering, who didn't see the end of the last show, we're going to at some point do a Rock-Austin rivalry episode. So if you're wondering where Steve Austin is, other than the Rumble, that's where we'll be featuring those matches down the line. Tonight, though, we're talking about The Rock and all that entails, the Oracle of Wrestling. How are you this evening?
I'm well. Got some wrestling on in the background here. NXT. I am prepared to talk about one of the greatest liars in the history of this business.
Bruce?
Right. All wrestlers are liars.
Correct. All the good ones are.
The great ones are really good at it. And,
yeah.
Dwayne's gotten up there in his own category, especially in his later years. So, I'm excited to talk about The Rock.
I am too. Very much so. Contrarian, Alex, how you feeling, mate?
I was going to add on to Oracle's point there, man. If that Smashing Machine movie does well, and God forbid Dwayne gets like an Oscar nomination out of it, that's only going to intensify his lying and like just the insanity that comes along with it. I assume we'll probably touch on that in the closing. But anyway, I'm good. No wrestling on here. This is a WNBA household now at this point in the year. LA Sparks are fixing to tip off at 9 o'clock, so I'll have that on the side. Unfortunately, the Dallas Stars aren't really following through on their end of making it to the Stanley Cup Finals. But you're here tonight to discuss. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. When I posted, every time we do one of these, I post on my Instagram page like the link and join us. So tonight we discuss the life and times of a true American success story and one of the most insane performers that has ever lived. And I think that's a good jumping off point for old DJ.
I agree, and it's very him that it all feels entirely sincere and entirely phony all at once. It's very fitting, really, and apt.
Keep it up, JH.
Yeah, keep it. One of my favorites, that is. Bob, I saw you were prepared. You had your wallet ready to go.
Yeah.
Very good post. Very good promotional post, Bobby. How you feeling, mate?
Doing well, man. Got my $7 ready to go. Got it locked and loaded. I've actually been looking forward to this one for quite some time. May's pretty stacked for birthday month or for wrestler birthdays, so we've had to push it off, but I'm fired up for this.
Yes, indeed. This is going to be an adventure, I think. And I think it is fascinating, like going through these matches and seeing kind of opinion on Rock evolve and change, and much to get into. Before we do any of that, though, we need to show some love to Young Blink, who's been a member for 9 months. We're at that point. We just hit that point. So that's Young Blink's got to be like a day one person because it was the end of August, right? So we're at 9 months is crazy. I remember that launch show. He says, "Hello, Joe. Hello. How are you feeling about other companies scheduling JC Jane matches on top of and around your shows?" It did feel kind of targeted, right, to do a title match, JC Jane title match while we're talking about The Rock. But, you roll with the punches. I'm used to them, battling competition that way, right? Just booking shows, try and target our Grin Grappler endeavors here. So it is what it is. I will catch up. I may even do that match as part of the big two this week. We shall see, which may be tomorrow, folks. Stay tuned for that. Huge love to Young Blink. Appreciate the support. Hope you've enjoyed the 9 months. Callum, I believe this was Grin Circle Tier. I cannot see on stream yet, but I believe it was Grin Circle Tier. New member here for LNG Gold. We just got off. I mean, that was a crazy Sunday. We did what, a 6-hour show for the pay-per-view on the AEW pay-per-view. We had a hell of a time. Lots of screaming at the end. It was very exciting, and a whole bunch of stuff to catch up on. But before, ahead of us, Callum, I should say, we're going to watch the Dean show on Thursday. Probably sometime around 8, 9-ish. We're going to watch that on Thursday. I've got a couple of shows tomorrow, and I'm sure there'll be some business this weekend. But welcome aboard, brother. There is an embarrassing amount of shows awaiting you now at your fingertips over on LNG Gold. If you want to follow suit, you can do so with the link below. You can also see Brainbuster an awful lot, who's been a member for 9 months too, sporting his own paycheck, and he says, locked in. Fellas, we are locked in too, bro. I hope you're having a good night, Buster. Damn right. God, I forgot that whole arc of the. Remember the Terramana posts, and we had a great man. It's been what a journey this has been. This is a big one tonight, boys. I'm excited. I'm feeling good. I'm ready to go.
I thought I have a bottle of Mana on the liquor shelf. I thought of pouring a glass for, but it's a Tuesday night. I can't be busting out tequila. Yeah. But the thought is there, Dwayne.
Yeah, tonight's going to be taxing enough, right? Without that, so
no, like knowing him, there is a greater than 0% chance this somehow comes across his desk at some point. So I'm going to give my shout out to Dwayne right now. Just say keep up what you're doing, DJ.
Yeah, we're on his side in the Great War.
Yeah,
you will win.
Yeah,
you will win. He's definitely gonna he'll listen to this while being on the treadmill or something. I feel
fucking 4 a.m.
Yeah, there'll be 4 TV screens on of different things. NWA Power, a couple movies.
Phone up. Grin Grappler, just want to tell you, Bobby O'Neill, The Rock's been watching you. That type of
shit. The Rock. Let's talk about The Rock, folks. Much to get into, as we always do. I actually forgot to do this last month, which just shows you, even all these matches, you still mess up sometimes, folks. It happens, We should start by talking about, because this is what I'm genuinely interested in. Our fandom, our relationship with The Rock, our long-distance relationship with The Rock, who I will be stunned if any one of us hasn't had their opinion change on him at some point. I would be stunned. Maybe I'm wrong. But I get the feeling we're going to have a range of answers here that even within our own answers, it changes an awful lot over the years. We've been watching him. He is obviously a kind of constant presence, even when he's out of wrestling, which obviously has been, a lot of the time in recent years, right? But he's always lurking in the shadows, is Dwayne. Bob O'Neill, your Rock fandom. Please explain. I'm fascinated because I have no idea what your answer is for this guy.
So, he was there in 2002 when I started watching, obviously, but I was aware of him before that. And, he was in SmackDown 2, obviously. He plays a big part in that game. He's, on the cover and all that. But even before that, I definitely remember watching him on Saturday Night Live. I don't know when that was compared to when, the video game came out, but whatever, around that time. But it was definitely before I started watching. I was aware of him. And then really, the first wrestling thing I remember is the NWO putting him in the ambulance and hitting it with the semi-truck. So, that's basically my first, wrestling memory. And I'm like, oh, that's The Rock. I know that guy. Why are they doing that to him? And, just kind of bought in from there. I guess he was my first favorite wrestler for most of that spring and summer till he left. And then, I had to pick someone else. And, it's the journey's been interesting. I liked him for most of the time. There's one match that happens that we're going to talk about that I was very much rooting against him and very mad about at the time.
Yep.
Yes, exactly. Every time he came back, it was just well, whatever. From 2013 onward, it was well, whatever. The Rock's here. He's going to do his Rock bit. That's fun. And then last year, he was probably the highlight of the road to WrestleMania. Yeah. And then this year, he's been very funny.
He's done it even in the last 18 months, he's done multiple 180s.
Yeah.
This is if you'd have told someone, I mean, they probably would have believed it, but considering how he kind of came out of the Mania build smelling like roses, it is crazy that we, when I was flying home from Vegas, he was public enemy number one among wrestling fans. It was such is the power of The Rock, right? Very early memories of Rock for me personally because he was my brother's absolute favorite. So much so that my brother hated. Here Comes the Pain is the one with like the incredible roster, right? Like Brock's on the cover and Goldberg's on it.
Dragons on it. That's the one that always sticks out with me.
My brother refused to embrace that game fully because Dwayne was a bad guy. He's Hollywood Rock, so he does like all of his taunts. He does like this one, where he like threatens to hit the fan and that. Brother Sean was not. He had no interest in such a venture. Why is Dwayne the Rock Johnson a bad guy? There's no reason for this. He's the top babyface, surely. And like memories like that, he was my brother's absolute favorite, and still is. So much so that we walked out of the stadium this year in Vegas, and I thought it was a very funny experience. He found it much less funny. He was quite mad at Dwayne the Rock Johnson, who had let him down here in 2025. And of course, like a good brother, I simply blamed him over and over again and said it was his own fault for believing that The Rock was going to show up. So yeah, I mean, that's a big part of my experience with him. And like, I definitely remember the Cena, just because it was such a big happening. I remember the Cena business, but then like when I was really watching closely, he would just kind of show up and like, none of the stuff he did was really good after he stopped wrestling. Like the Eric Rowan thing at WrestleMania 32 is diabolical, dude. Like he does that extended entrance and like all of his promos were the same as Bob mentioned, and he has kind of the Rock bit. He's really he's on the Fox premiere and sucks on that. Like he's just he's like a character himself. So I was stunned. I mean, I've always thought Rock was great, like revisiting his stuff. But being able to experience him in real time the way I did with the Final Boss, where we were covering on WrestlePedia and stuff, was like he transformed the TV. Like he was must watch. And let's be honest, people way overuse must watch, right? There'll be like an action Andretti match graphic will drop, and people go, "Oh, collisions, it ain't must watch." Dude, they would give The Rock a mic in the ring, and it was like, I need to actually see this because I'm going to miss something, electric. So I became a huge fan, and now I remain a huge fan because I believe he has now evolved into like the funniest figure in wrestling because he sort of like oversees the whole thing, but you very rarely actually see him. And when you do see him, he's got a 50-50 hit rate. Like sometimes he sucks, and other times he's incredible, but he's always present because anything that happens now, people go, Rock's at it again. He's meddling again over there with the WWF. So he's become an increasing fave, which is why I've got the hat currently sported here. Oracle. Fascinated by this. Your fandom of The Rock. Go for it.
Yeah, so kind of like today, when I first started watching, he was the top guy, but he wasn't really treated like that. Triple H was treated kind of on TV, but he actually was the top guy when I first started watching, which was late '99. Like, because I started watching right after Austin went out with the next year. So Rock was the top guy, but they pretended Triple H was, again, kind of like today. And he was the biggest star in wrestling when I first started watching, because again, Austin's like absence was bigger in a lot of ways, because like he was like people were just kind of waiting for Austin to come back in some ways, and that's highlighted a little bit in Backlash, but like Rock was the guy. He didn't always get all the TV time and all that shit. Like Triple H got the central focus. Rock was the number one babyface. But even when Triple H had like the Kurt Angle feud that kind of like was center stage, Rock main evented. Rock main evented Fully Loaded. He main evented Unforgiven. Even during all that stuff in the summer with Angle, Stephanie, Rock, like they knew Rock was the guy. He was the headliner. He was the draw. I liked The Rock. I was a little kid, so I liked him. I was a bigger Austin fan. When Austin came back in late 2000, I liked Austin more. I appreciated The Rock more when he came back in the summer of 2002.
Great run.
Really, and around 2002, 2003, even though I was still a little kid, I started to appreciate heels and like just like funny heels. So like Hollywood Rock was fun. And then there was that period where he would come back like 2 or 3 times a year for like in like 2003 or 2004. It was always cool when he would come back. It was always like stupid segments or whatever. But like,
Do you remember one of them was the Diva Search, the Christy Hemme?
yes, that
came
was
back to
one of the last ones. I think that was the last one before you know, he got basically, you know.
Yeah.
I forgot to re-sign him. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Basically, just left behind because you know
It was a mere oversight.
Jared went and did, you know, and you know, Jared had another life outside of wrestling. But I was like a big fan of the Rundown and of what was the other one? Besides the Scorpion King and stuff, what was the one?
Walking Tall.
Walking Tall.
Yes,
Yeah.
Walking Tall. Thank you. Yeah, I was a big fan of those movies when I was a kid because, like, you know, The Rock, whatever. And I was
They're fun. Yeah, they're fun.
Rundown's good.
Yeah.
Which is the one with Ashley Scott?
See, I always get confused because it isn't called The Rundown for us. It's called like Welcome to the Jungle or something.
There's the movie with Ashley Scott. Which one is that?
Contrarian Alex is on the case.
Yeah, that's Walking Tall. Isn't that Johnny Knoxville's in that movie too, right?
Yeah, right. Okay, so Ashley Scott babysitted me when I was a toddler. I don't remember. So my dad taught her in high school, and I'm just gonna tell it because it's hilarious. My brother Dylan always made the joke about this. He always used to tell me when I was a kid. He goes, "Hey, you know, I kissed The Rock." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, I kissed The Rock." He said, "Because you know, Ashley Scott kissed me on the cheek one time. She kissed The Rock."
Tremendous.
Yeah. So, but I popped huge when he came back when I was in high school because he was good. He was the host of the first Mania I ever went to. So, and that's not that good of a Mania, obviously, but like it was a huge deal when he came back. Like the company was in the total PG doldrums, and like it was. His comeback was a huge deal, so much so that he, you know, was a part of the, you know, most highest selling match basically in the history of wrestling, which we, you know, we'll talk about here tonight. I would say the end of that run when he had the match with Punk and the second match with Cena in 2013, I was like, all right, he sucks. You know, he's out there looking like, you know, late era Andre cardio, you know. I mean,
come on.
This is not good, you know.
Just Dwayne working out of the corner the whole match, like Bobo in '85.
But you know, I was just like, there's always a level, like, you know, you can't turn away even now when he comes on TV because you want to see what he's going to say. And obviously, the final boss stuff in 2024 was incredible. And I mean, now he's, you know, he goes on after WrestleMania this year and absolves himself of every sin possible, and it's fucking amazing and not also bad at the same time. So yeah, I have mixed feelings on the guy, but I think overall, I think he's obviously one of the all-time greats, and in the ring, in particular, from late '99 until like Hollywood Rock, I think he was awesome in the ring. So. Like legitimately underrated, and like people don't praise him enough. And I think we get some tidbits of that. So yeah, I mean he's an interesting one because like I think since he came back in 2011, the range on him is
obscene.
Has widened, right? On the opinion of him, but. You know, not an all-time favorite of mine, but someone I do appreciate, particularly in the early 2000s, of how overall they were as a well-rounded worker and wrestler.
Right, and I think that's kind of the balance for me that's a little bit challenging with The Rock now. There's so much folklore and reputation and, frankly, comedy about just the way we perceive him. I also, you know, it's important. I think we talk about him as a wrestler, right? Because I think he's a great pro wrestler. I agree. I think he's an all-time great pro wrestler. I think that's a hot take, but I think for people now, there's so much that accompanies the name of The Rock. It's hard to just think of him as like one of the great pro wrestlers because he's beyond that, really, in truth, isn't he? He's like this sort of mythical figure at this point. For for better and worse. I think if you're a huge Rock fan, you're probably not worrying about where he slots on like greatest wrestler ever, right? If you're a huge Rock hater, you don't think he belongs on such a thing. So it's a very strange thing. I think his fandom has evolved in that way where people have kind of separated. Alex, I'm intrigued. Where does your kind of Dwayne fandom start, end, and the rest of it, mate? Go for it.
God damn. This is, I think, more than any other episode we've ever done. I'm going to be the old guy on this. I remember sitting cross-legged with my Jack's Bone Crunchers watching The Rock's debut at Survivor Series 1996.
My God.
I remember him coming through the curtain, and I remember specifically hearing Jim Ross go, now that's... leave it to Jim Ross to know what he's talking about. He said, now that's going to be the man right there. That's Blue Chipper all the way, says something like that. And
what a beast.
I mean, even at 8 or 9, however old I was able to grasp the idea that if they were debuting someone on a pay-per-view at Madison Square Garden, it meant like they were someone to like pay attention to. I remember he won that match. His original finisher was a shoulder breaker, which I remember Scott Norton did that move on WCW.
Yes,
so I was like, that's Scott Norton's move, that guy from Saturday Night. Yeah, and a lot obviously happened after that. I was, famously in Grin Grappler lore, I was at WrestleMania 13, which was like the culmination of the failed Rocky Maivia experiment, where they did like the run-in with Rocky Johnson, and the crowd was booing him and shit. And I remember as a kid, I remember seeing Faith No More guy of ECW fame had the Die Rocky Die sign. And like, I didn't really dig The Rock. Like, I wasn't big on the Rocky Maivia thing, but like, I didn't understand why everyone was like booing him and shit. But of course, going into that night, my favorite wrestler in the WWF was Stone Cold Steve, second to Shawn Michaels, which LOL, that's aged well, was Stone Cold Steve Austin. And obviously something of note happened with him at WrestleMania 13. And so that's like the important call out for me, was that through 97, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, The Rock he was like here with me, but Steve Austin was always here. Like, I always thought Steve Austin, and I mean, if you want to go back to that time period too, Steve Austin did bigger business than The Rock, but he was always the bigger star. And I remember him as a kid, he really got under my skin when he was the leader of the nation. Like, I remember like jumping up and down celebrating when Triple H won the ladder match at SummerSlam 98. Like, that was I was really happy that happened. And but that, like, it was like the next month was what started his babyface turn.
Yeah.
And then of course Russo flip-flopped it. And I remember going through like 99 and like when Austin was gone, like warming up to him. And but it was, I don't have any memory of being like a kid and like hoping The Rock won the big match outside of one of the things we're going to talk about. And I remember watching WrestleMania 18, and that was, I would have been like 14. So right at the tail end of being like a little kid, where you still kind of have this enjoyment of it before, teen angst really, really kicks in. And so I remember that was the same year. And I remember being very like wanting Brock Lesnar to kill him at SummerSlam 2002. Because like the range of emotions with The Rock, because even in 02, after he left after WrestleMania 18 and then came back, he had like different sideburns, and like the way he was talking was already different and shit. But man, I loved heel Rock when he came back as Hollywood Rock. I've said this, I don't know if I've said this on here before. Legitimately, one of the best angles ever concocted in the history of the WWF is the idea that The Rock was going to become a Hollywood superstar, but he had to come back to wrestling to beat Steve Austin. Otherwise, it would haunt him the rest of his life. That's like legitimately like one of the best setups for a match they've ever had. And we talked about it a bit in the Goldberg episode because of how animated The Rock is in that match. And he was having clearly so much fun during that. And dude, that Hollywood Rock run was 3 months, and people still remember it. Like, in a lot of people's heads, it's like an extended period of his career where he was that guy, and it was really 3 pay-per-views. So takes his time off. Oracle kind of summarized my thoughts. The 2011 comeback, that first night when he came back and had like that 20-minute segment, it was so unlike anything we had seen on WWF television for years at that point. And it was so welcomed. And he was the first guy. And I again, I'm older than y'all, so I was beyond jaded at this point. But seeing like a guy talk real shit about John Cena on the WWF was insane. And so like I got so fired up for that, and we'll talk about what that eventually, culminated in. But I remember that being like a turning point for me with The Rock. Also important to mention at this point, I've kept up with his movie career like the entire time. I've watched the majority of his movies. Scorpion King because I was a kid, and The Rock was in a movie up until today because I'm kind of like, I'm gonna go see The Smashing Machine. He's been an interesting person to follow in that way because it's so much more than wrestling. Every time he's hosted SNL, I check that out. And Bobby talked about SmackDown. He was on the cover because that the game was named after him.
Yeah,
like he has a show and games and entry in Webster's Dictionary because he used the phrase SmackDown. I imagine Dr. Dre takes umbrage with that, but who's going to say? And then recently, we fast forward to modern times. Last year, especially because we had that live grin along of the press conference or whatever it was.
Yes, we did. I forgot that.
And we were just like, what is he doing when he came out with the fucking PowerPoint presentation of the bloodline and shit? And watching that all unfold was unbelievable. And man, I know we'll come back to this when we close. In an industry of professional wrestling where everyone to some degree is full of shit, that guy now goes out and talks anywhere, not just on wrestling, but like when he does all his public appearances and stuff. I'm like, that guy is more, he like, it's this weird thing where he wants to be a pro wrestler, but also a politician. And those are like the two most full of shit people, like the types of people in the fucking world. So every time he talks now, he's not quite Hulk Hogan levels of legendary in that way, but who knows what he fucking believes anymore. And like when he goes out there and just starts talking. And the best part though, Hogan's just a fucking white trash idiot who still wears a bandana and fake hair. The best part about The Rock is that he tries to look like Steve Jobs on steroids when he goes out every time. Like he's got his like little readers and shit. And he's always like, he's doing shit like this when he talks and whatnot. He is a bizarre individual, and I like I said, I know we'll come back to that at some point, but for the purposes of the next few hours, what we're going to talk about, a fantastic pro wrestler that went through different versions of, he gets it. Like, it's not often you come across a wrestler that has been around as long as he has, where you can watch like definitively different eras of him understanding what to do in different ways. But even as a kid, I understood he was one of just one because he's a guy that William Regal once said, and this will be my closing thought on this. He said, The Rock could have gone to the ring and read out of the phone book and people would have been hanging on every word that he said. And he, for now and forever, will be the only guy that could have cut some of the promos he did and had crowds going fucking nuts.
I agree. And, to your point about different versions of The Rock, part of what we tried to do with the Axe is like capture that, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Rock is not an active wrestler for many years at all. Like, truly, if you added up years, even the comeback years, if you added them up, you probably have 7, 8 full years, maybe less than that even.
When we were putting together a lineup for this, little behind the curtain for those listening, we were going through his cage match, and like the Hurricane match is like less than 10 matches back from that tag match at WrestleMania. Yeah. It's crazy.
It is. So with that in mind, we didn't get any Rocky Maivia in. We did try, but ultimately we felt we conceded defeat on that. We got Nation. We got Corporate Rock. We get Hollywood. We get, the peak of him as the babyface centerpiece in 2000. We get the comeback. There's another comeback on top of that, as we know. It's just wild, man. Such a strange career. There's not really any comparison for it, is there, in the history of wrestling? There's not. You couldn't possibly have a comparison for it. He's an all-time guy with very few years under his belt. Really, it's bizarre.
Yeah, that I'm sure you could find some good brothers here and there that would pop in and out of wrestling, but at his level, and like I just said earlier, people, including myself, convince themselves of how active he was when in fact he really wasn't.
Indeed. So I was just looking at this. So apparently, I guess he started training in like the start of '96, maybe late '95.
Flex Cabana.
He's working WWF house shows in March of '96, dude. Like,
was it? I think his tryout match was in Corpus Christi against Steve Lombardi.
It's just wild that he's having a tryout match that soon before like training. I understand it's he's third generation and all that good stuff, but it's still like he's brand new. It gives you some perspective on why he struggled so much out of the gate. As you mentioned, the Memphis kind of reps he got, and then as you recalled earlier, the Survivor Series debut, which he has done like a watch along for, the audience's disinterest in that match is hysterical. Like, I'm not putting that on the Rock's shoulders, but if you watch that whole match, the people are just dead silent at the Garden like the whole time, which is worth looking at just for novelty if you're a weirdo like me. And then he wins the IC title in February, so less than a year after having his first wrestling match, he's Intercontinental Champion. Like, again, it makes sense that it was pretty tough, to win people over. And I was watching, I watched the In Your House show. What's it called? Cold Day in Hell. Cold Day in Hell, is that In Your House? Yes, May '97, I think. I watched that show the other day, and he works with Foley on that, ironically. And I actually was thinking about, like, you can see a sort of broad charisma because he's a good-looking guy. If you'd have told someone watching that match that he would end up having one of the biggest wrestling personalities ever, they would have, they couldn't fathom it. No. He's such a blank slate. There's no oomph there. Again, he's a good-looking guy with a good body, so there is a physical charisma of some level, but there's no personality really at all. And of course, that would change in the most extreme ways even in the next year. The fans reject him, as Alex mentioned. He loses the IC strap to Owen, right? He loses the title too, I think. Owen Hart wins the title from Dwayne? I believe so. Then he gets hurt and he returns in August, turning heel, joining the Nation, and Bruce Pritchard allegedly told every developmental class in the history of wrestling when he would go down to visit them, the Nation was a D-Lo vehicle. He would bring this up. So if you're in developmental for 2-3 years, you'd get 6 Bruce Nation stories where he just does the exact same thing, beat for beat, word for word.
I wonder if that one or the Johnny Ace and the Tokyo Dome story was better to see in person.
Wow. I think pretty more humor to Johnny Ace's delivery, I presume, because just the way he talks, right?
I was going to say, and at this point, the way Kenny has told that story, Kenny Omega, it built it up more mythically in my head than it probably actually was. But just the idea of him with this fucking suit jacket slung over his shoulder.
Yeah. The other one is bless Jim Ross, love to Jim Ross, and he's going to get a lot of love on this show because he has some incredible calls. But Jim, he would supposedly just talk to them about taxes and making sure they didn't blow all their money, which is these guys on their $50,000 developmental contracts. Jim Ross explains to them Steve Austin's finances. Again, it is fitting. Seriously, JR, I tweeted earlier, JR has multiple calls on this lineup that would be career best calls for a normal announcer. He is spectacular on this slate of matches, which is fitting. Obviously, I think we all know the pride he took in Rock's success and still does, I'm sure. He works with Steve Austin in December of '97, and he comes out of that deal in a very convoluted way, I believe, with the IC strap again as a heel. And that takes us to our first match, the Royal Rumble, our first ever Rumble in Grin Grappler history. January 18th, 1998, the Royal Rumble match, which is a big one for The Rock, a significant match, less than 2 years pro. And he is tasked with being the Iron Man. Now, you may say to that, why is he already the Iron Man? Well, I recommend you look up the rest of the talent involved in this match because this is a sobering reminder. If we were doing first take NBA talk, dude, Austin didn't have a lot of help, man, when he turned this thing around and won the championship. This was a pretty wild squad he had operating alongside him here. much to discuss. He also wrestled Ken Shamrock on the undercard of this show.
Shamrock was the guy that really helped him
Yes.
come into like his own as a singles bad guy wrestler.
Extended program, right? They work at Mania, right? That year, am I correct?
They work at Mania, and like the payoff, and it kind of sucks for Shamrock that Steve Austin took off the way he did, because I think Shamrock could have been in a better position to win the title. But the big payoff is that The Rock keeps getting away, like skating by, and these matches have these like blah finishes. And when Shamrock won the King of the Ring was when he finally beat The Rock, when he made him tap out. It's an awesome finish, and JR, of course, as he does with most of these matches tonight, gives it something that really puts it over the edge.
Indeed. So I kind of think the best way to do this, boys, if you don't mind, I kind of think we should talk about The Rock specifically in this match and cover that however much we want to. And then I think we should just dedicate a little bit of time to discussing all that surrounds him in this Rumble match, because there is a lot to talk about in this Rumble match. Some of it kind of comedic because of how goofy some of it is. Some of it truly memorable, right? There's one particular iconic thing, and there's a legendary wrestler we've covered on the Grappler who I think has like a staggering performance in this, considering where he's at in his career. So we'll do that second. We'll lead with The Rock talk. He's in at 4, and he has himself a hell of a showing, Bobby. I want to hear your thoughts. Before I hear them, though, Bob, please tell the people what they can do if they're enjoying this so far, and then take it away with your Rumble 98 Dwayne thoughts. Go for it, Bobby.
Yeah, if you're having a good time so far, you go ahead and smash that like button. First time. It's an odd number, so you are good to do it. Go ahead and go and do it.
Yes, sir. Go for it, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Rock's performance in this match, like you said, it's clear to see why he's the Iron Man. It's a lot of him kind of just getting involved with whoever comes in there. He's got a kind of nice sequence with Terry Funk that was fun to see. I think, do they have a singles match at some point on like Raw or something? I feel like they had one.
I wonder. I'm not sure. Does anyone know?
Yeah, but either way, I mean, but yeah, the Rock moments are good. He's got the big moment with D'Lo because they're teasing that. Plus, it's a Royal Rumble. It's every man for himself. It doesn't matter that they're in the same faction. So, Shamrock comes out. Eventually, Rock eliminates him with the distraction. It just everything he needed to do in this match, and then being one of the final 2 as well. To kind of set the stage with that. Like, they hit all the notes for him specifically that they needed to, and actually, this is the only thing that I have an observer note for, but Dave wrote, Rocky Maivia showed once again he's a genuine top star, and given his level of experience and age, has the potential to be everything that was predicted of him when he started. Of the entire roster, he's the one most likely to turn the big 3 into the big 4.
There you go. Dave proving prolific. No singles matches, but you're right. There is a great, at one point, Terry lights him up with chops.
Yeah.
Dwayne backs off. He's definitely kind of.
There's that.
It's a great experience, right? Go for it, Alex.
There's a dark match that I think's on YouTube, but I know it's on one of the unreleased sets. It's Steve Austin, The Undertaker, Terry Funk, and Mick Foley against the Nation of Domination.
Okay.
Wow. Wild match. Yeah, much happening here. Much happening. I think Rock does a really good job of keeping the energy up, in a long shift on his part. Alex, what did you make of The Rock's part in this Royal Rumble match, which certainly was a standout performance, or a breakout performance even?
Oh, absolutely. When he comes out, even just the way the crowd reacts to him is like, this motherfucker. Like, it's he's so good at soaking that up too. Bob called out. I love how him and D'Lo will team up at some points and then fight each other at others, because it's like, well, fuck it, it's every man for himself. And there's also, this is that time when there's all the dissension in the Nation of Domination. And so I love the idea that all 4 of them use the match as an excuse to beat up the other ones just to get their frustrations out. Because the first thing Ron Simmons does when he hits the ring is starts beating the shit out of The Rock, which I thought was really good. The Rock is fantastic. He's getting his ass kicked for a lot of this, and the kind of flipping and flopping he's doing. One thing, because I was trying to pay attention to him specifically, is that did anyone else see he does a people's elbow in this match?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's of no fanfare, and
it's lost in production, right?
Yeah, the camera barely catches it, and it's on Terry Funk, who of course starts then fucking having a seizure on the ground when The Rock hits him with the elbow. And I was looking it up, and it's disputed when the first People's Elbow was, but and
Oh.
like a quick Google search, I couldn't find anyone like citing this. I was like, hey, he just did the deal. I love Shamrock just working over the Rock in the corner because Shamrock hits the ring and he wants to get at him, and their dynamic is fantastic. There's also, and he's a part of the match in a no good way. Mark Marrow is just kind of flailing around like an idiot the whole time he's in the ring, and there's a part where I don't know, I can't remember who's coming to the ring, but Dwayne gives one of the Rock punches to Mark Marrow and then turns around and darts for the corner and just goes down and hugs the corner while Marrow's selling, and then Marrow turns back around and is like looking around like, where'd he go? And then he walks over to the Rock, and like obviously I don't know what they're saying, but I'm just kind of like, I was like watching my screen like, and it looks as though Marrow's like, what do I do now? And the Rock's like, I don't know. And then Marrow just like kind of does this a little bit and like walking around the ring, and then the Rock gets up like motherfucker and grabs him and then takes him in the corner, and they start like having a little scuffle. There's several points in this where the Rock just I guess he's probably tired, he's taking a break, but it's done in such a way that it looks like he's just like dying on the apron. It's like visually very funny. Eventually it does get to a point where Jim Ross does the thing of, and I have to call out, the Rock has now been in this match for over 50 minutes, and really putting over his grit on commentary. Yeah, I have some other notes to touch upon, but The Rock has the great heel moment too, when it's down to him, Farouk, and Austin, where Farouk starts working over Austin in the corner, and then The Rock goes to help him, and then does one of these and goes and sits back down in the corner because he's like, fuck it, I'm going to rest up. And then the finish of this Rumble match is absolutely fucking god tier. This is where we see like the flashes of what will become of this. And we already had, we had that over, not Over the Edge, but DX, was that the In Your House where they had the Intercontinental title match?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But like Dwayne does his big pronounced fuck you, and when they start trading shots, the place like comes alive. Like the people like rise to their feet, and then the finish too, the great tease of, you think Dwayne goes over, he doesn't, comes back in, takes a stunner, and topples over the top. Yeah, a fantastic performance, an excellent Royal Rumble performance, and like because what we're doing this for, I was basically just watching him the whole time, and really no wasted motion. Like, I'm sure if you go through the annals of the Royal Rumbles and you fixate on one guy who's supposed to be in a ring a long time, you'll see him just doing a bunch of like nothing, just Roman Reigns was in a Royal Rumble where he laid outside the entire time. So, it's it seemed as though he was aware of the position they were putting him in, and he was going to make the most of it, and I think he did.
I would agree. And to your point about the Austin dynamic, they also have that moment of ringside, right? And they're brawling around on the floor, and it's like, boy, would that be a sign of things to come in terms of just like every main event match that era would look like that. Yeah, it's definitely a big shine for The Rock, and I think it's like it was a quirky thing to include, but I think it is representative of a moment for him, kind of changing perception of him and showing how much he'd grown. And as you said at the end there, him and Austin, the people see that as a big deal, which would prove pivotal. Oracle, what did you make of The Rock's performance in the '98 Rumble?
Yeah, he was very good in this. There's still elements of him being green in terms of in the ring, but his presence is already like, he's already got like a presence that he didn't have a year. It's like night and day from like, late 96, early 97 to this match in January 98. A couple of moments that haven't been mentioned that popped me were at least one in particular was, I think there was one point where they did like the hard cam look, and he's in there and he's like scuffling with Bradshaw, and fucking JBL kicks the shit out of Rock right in the fucking head.
Dude. Yeah, I'm sorry. The Rock gets mollywopped by Bradshaw and Phineas Godwin at certain points in this match, man.
Yeah, he gets an ass whooping. Not to mention, of course, early on, he takes a great bump off of the trash can shot from Funk, and then takes an awesome topple through the ropes to the floor.
That's right.
So like he kind of got his ass kicked at times, which usually happens when you're the long Iron Man in
When you're the Jey Uso of the
Rumble.
match.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the Jey Uso. This was a. I'm glad we started with this because really early Dwayne, I don't care for at all, other than like his really good crossbody. So like, I'm very glad we kind of started like as he finally sort of starts to actually show his charisma. There's a lot going on in this match, so I think at times the commentary is so much like once we covering this and then like the last two, the commentary is so much better. They do a really good job of bringing him up constantly, and even though he's not always in the picture or like always necessarily like the main focus, JR and King do a good job of like reminding us that he's been in there for so long or whatever. Just a holy shit. Sorry. Just a really good holy shit. Just a really good performance from him. This is probably his first like really strong standout performance. And of course the Austin Showdown's amazing. Like I always liked that they did the bit where he skins the cat or and then Austin has to stun him and then throw him back out, which is honestly an iconic finish to a Rumble.
Yeah.
One of the best finishes to a Rumble ever. Just a truly great performance. His first truly, really strong performance in his career, I think.
Indeed. There's a new NXT World Champion. I'm hearing, or maybe you can. JC Jane has pinned Stephanie McKeer tonight. Is this correct?
Yes, and she hit her forearm.
Oh my god!
And pinned her, baby. 1, 2,
knockout
3. Right there, and knocked her ass out. Yeah.
Wow.
Damn. Pretty cool. Good for JC Jane. All bits aside.
I had to. I could not react to that because when I saw the 3, I said I looked up, and I'll rewatch it later because we're trying to do some business here. But I looked up and I just couldn't. I couldn't help but just say, "Oh my god!"
How long has JC been in NXT?
4 years.
Yeah, it's been a while. Big love. Good for JC Jane. That's cool. I wonder what that means for Stephanie McKeer though. Maybe she's headed up. I don't know.
Probably.
Pretty damn cool. All right, good for JC. Seriously.
Okay. Triple H. Oh no, I'm just as I called on Twitter, Stephanie McKeer is like one of the only people in the WWF I'm interested in anymore, and Triple H is going to get her hands on her, and it's going to be bad.
All right, so let's now talk about this Rumble as well. This is a very direct Royal Rumble. This is a build focused on Steve Austin. It is a match focused on Steve Austin. The match changes when Steve Austin enters. It is a Steve Austin vehicle. Thank the Lord Vince Russo did not overcomplicate that. If it was a year later, God only knows who would have won. I think 8 Ball would have took it home. So with that in mind, I think this is a pretty fun Rumble match, but it's not like a classic or anything. But there is stuff to talk about. And so I'm just going to kind of jump around here, and you guys stop me whenever you want. Alex, you're unsure of my not a classic Rumble?
I really like this one. I think it's kind of underrated.
It's a classic? I don't know. Would you say it's deemed a classic? Yeah.
No, yeah. And also, out of the 30 plus years of history, I'd probably the ones I would deem classic would probably be less than 5.
Yeah, I'd say this is like upper mid.
You already called it out. The roster is so indicative of the state of flux they were in. Like, dude, it was like a constant state of flux. If you look at the 95, 96, 97, 98 Rumble lineups, it's like it's so indicative that Vince had really no fucking idea what he was doing besides like who he thought was going to be the top guy.
Indeed. One for the future was a emerging new character, Chainsaw Charlie, who had come to be in this month or so before the Rumble. He meets Cactus Jack as our first 2, and good God, man, some of these headshots.
Terry
Oh,
doing this.
yeah. And
It's
what
beautiful.
about when like
A shot.
Mick waves him on and Terry like he throws the chair shot like it's a baseball pitch, bro. He goes like side on
Yeah,
and just I mean it
the
is
sound is quite blood curdling.
it is. It's pretty vicious. And as you mentioned, you DM'd it to us, Alex. JR and Lawler just say enough of Chainsaw Charlie's Terry Funk.
Lawler was always really good at that of establishing that he had beef with guys before the WWF, but not really explaining what it was. And that's he's like that idiot Terry Funk, you know, he's in there, and he was always really good about that. Like up until I mean, as late as like 2008 or some shit. If Lawler was on commentary and Tommy Dreamer was in the ring, he goes, "Oh, here comes that idiot Tommy Dreamer." Like I always thought that was like one of Lawler's best quirks as a commentator. But yeah, they no time for the Chainsaw Charlie thing. They're like, it's fucking Terry Funk.
Yeah. I'd forgotten. I thought Rock was in at 3. Tom Brandy, I yelled.
Tom Brandy, the big Italian, the fucking Italian, the Italy flag is backwards on his trunks.
Oh yeah.
No way. Oh my God, that's amazing. Other things to call out. What about the old Mosh gets coming through the curtain, bro? That's TV star right there.
I can't believe he called out Mosh because Mosh is coming out looking like the big LG, man. He's like gunned out and all oiled up and shit. I was like, how dare Mosh have those guns oiled up on pay-per-view, brother?
Dude,
The
when
spot-
they did their
The spot where Terry takes the fucking pantyhose over and puts it over his head so he can take the suplex under the fucking hair.
yeah, just tremendous. Phineas Godwin, like I have no idea. I just laughed out loud, just like the music, because I just forget the Godwins are getting like a huge
the
show.
Neil
They're like,
Goblin music, the
yeah,
fucking like deliverance scene that came out to.
they're one of the main teams, dude. They're one of the main teams in the territory.
I maintain that is a gimmick that could have worked. Now it's probably too sticky, but that Appalachian's backwood, like just vicious heels thing, like.
Yeah.
But of course, Vince hates Southern people, so it was never really going to take on anything of its own. And also, their gear is fairly problematic.
Well, yeah.
I mean, to a certain extent, you saw that with the Wyatts. The idea of those backwoods guys are really dangerous and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There is a hilarious Terry Funk moonsault.
Yes.
We have to just put Terry Funk is incredible in this match. He's likely the best performer in the match. He's 54 years old, I believe, this time. I mean,
and again, watching this analytically, that I kept finding my eyes wandering to him when I was trying to watch The Rock. And it's that point where, like, the would-be people's elbow, they're doing, like, a back and forth, and Terry's kind of lighting him up with the body shots. And then Rock just starts pouring on. And at this point, Terry's, like, falling out of his clothes. Like, his fucking long johns he's got are, like, billowing off, and his pants are falling down and shit. But, and, like, the way he's bumping, the crowd, every time he gets close to the ropes and thrown out, the crowd's like, oh, like, Terry. You're right. Incredible, like, unexpected praise for Terry Funk's 98 Royal Rumble performance.
That's what he does, bro. Goat things. We have to show love to everyone who's filing in. This is a very funny occasion. We've done Grin Grappler opposite NXT many times. This has never happened before because what else could it possibly happen for? Around 30 people have joined to just say like Jace Jane in the chat. We're very thankful. We also need to give a huge thanks to Jumanji Hunter, who gifted 10 LNG Gold memberships in the name of JCJ. So huge thanks to Jumanji Hunter. I hope everyone is having a good night. I did not get to see the match. Oracle was watching it and reacted live. Kind of like sort of try to stop himself, and then realized that some things just have to go for it, man. Just to live the moment, you know. So yeah. We hope everyone is well. When I see the match, I will loop back around on this situation. We all talk about The Rock, if that's the thing that interests you. I don't know what the overlap is in JC Jane, Dwayne Johnson fandom. I have no idea. But we all talk about The Rock, and we do have some advice. Bob specifically has some advice. If you just want to show some love to the brand, you want to do something to support JC Jane and Late Night Grin, but you don't necessarily want to send 10 memberships like the Great Jumanji Hunter, there's something you can do for free, right, Bob? That helps us a lot. Go for it, Bobby.
Go ahead and smash that like button.
That's how you fucking do it, boys. See that? Beautiful. I'll do something about JC Jane soon. We have much to discuss here this evening, but I hope everyone is well, and I appreciate everyone immediately sprinting to the channel to just type Jace Jane in our live chat. and also everyone who's in my mentions. It's very funny. Good for JC Jane. Seriously, it's really cool. I also think it's cool when there's like actual shocks on wrestling TV nowadays. You know, like people actually go, "Wow, a finish I never would have believed happened." That's really cool. We need more of that. So, I'm glad to hear it. All right, 8-Ball was in this match. We
At
do
number
get the free
7,
face of Foley. Indeed. Oh,
yeah.
very nice. We get free face of Foley. We get the Jeff Jarrett, Owen Hart business. Jim Cornette is described as a stain on the underwear of life by Jim Ross.
When Owen comes back out and the way they do that scenario where Jarrett's strutting and then Owen throws him out, that gets the second biggest reaction of the Rumble match.
Mm-hmm. It does.
That reminds me of when Honky Tonk Man came out and like a quarter of the way through his entrance, Triple H and China started coming down to do their spot with Owen.
He must have been so mad, dude. When Owen throws Jeff, Papa Holbert pumped his fist in excitement in 2025 in the 98 Rumble. Steve Blackman and Terry Funk share an insane duel at one point in the middle of the ring. It's also worth noting that Terry at one juncture boxes with Mark Mero, like puts the Dukes up and starts circling. And
it's the only thing worth a shit Mero did in the match.
What about when Steve Blackman throws that spinning kick and Kurgan misses Kurgan by that much? It could have killed him, dude. If that hit Kurgan on the chin, it would have killed him. Seriously.
Very underrated theme of the day. Kurgan's like, meh, meh, ding, very good. I don't know if anyone caught Bradshaw and Kurgan working together, where the clear direction to Kurt that was semi-reminiscent of when Braun Strowman wouldn't sell for Brock in 2015, and then he had to be taught a lesson. It's clear the direction given to Kurgan was you don't go off your feet until Ken Shamrock hits the ring, and Bradshaw didn't take too kindly to that, so Bradshaw just starts hitting him harder and harder in the head, and Kurgan's still just doing like the then Bradshaw gets mad and then starts going to work with someone else. It's funny.
We do have to talk, Ken Shamrock we mentioned a little bit here, but his intensity on the entrance, his music hasn't even hit yet, and he's like halfway down the ramp ready to kill Blade. It's awesome. The sight of Dustin Rhodes at this point, you can only greet with like oh Jesus.
Yeah. That's a shame. Vader's a shame.
Vader's a sad state of affairs, bro. He's number 30 and no one believes he's winning for a second.
Which sucks because there is like a version of the match where Vader at 30 is like, oh shit moment. Like there's Jack Doan gets killed by Phineas Godwin going over the top rope.
Mm-hmm. That was wild, yeah.
I read on isn't it on Jack Doan's Wikipedia page that I think I read it on his page one time because I'm weird and read referee Wikipedia pages and remember. That he got because I didn't read this last night when I watched this match. This was years ago. I think he got concussed from that.
Oh, I believe it.
Big fellow.
I mean, it is I'm not even saying better or worse, but these Rumbles are very different to what we see nowadays, aren't they? The level to which they're produced now, how much of this Rumble is the lads just kind of going from one corner to another, forearms and
the Rumble today go 85 fucking minutes.
Well, yeah, that also, but I just meant, stylistically,
It genuinely seemed the one big thing in the match that was they told everybody to be on the same page about was when Austin's music hits, everyone stops what they're doing and turns their, which is awesome. Just that visual. Do you know how awesome that makes Steve Austin look? That all these guys want to kick his ass, and then he hits the ring and starts hauling off. Yeah. You mentioned Honky Tonk Man. Again, just the chemistry of Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler. Lawler says numerous times while HTM's in there, he's like, oh, my cousin Wayne, or he's like, my cousin Honky Tonk Man. And then when Honky Tonk Man gets eliminated, Jim Ross sarcastically goes, oh, cousin Honky Tonk Man's out of there. And then it's quiet, and Lawler goes, he's your cousin?
JR describes Dwayne as a thoroughbred at one point, popped huge. What else do we have here? That poor Ahmed. Oh dear, poor Ahmed. It's over.
Oh my god! Not viciously buried when he came out.
Yeah, he did. He looked like he'd rob it anywhere else in the world. Sad.
And what was it? And the King buried him for the earrings, and then JR was like, Ahmed claims to be 100%, which was clearly a dig.
Yeah. Yeah. The absolute. Go on, Alex. Go for it, mate.
I was going to say, one of my notes here, when Vader hits the ring, as they're waiting for Leon to waddle down, they go back to the hard cam shot, and primetime Brian Lee is beating the fuck out of Steve Austin in the corner. He's hauling off with these like back from behind movie punches, and they like Austin's not selling them for shit, but the punches look incredible. And like I imagine Austin in his head is like, goddamn Underfaker thinks he's gonna get one up on me in my match. I don't think so. But Brian Lee is doing all he can to wear out Steve Austin in the corner. It's quite a shocking sight.
Paul Mark Henry is terrible at this point. He comes in and throws like 15 of the worst strikes you will ever see. Like, just has no business being on pay-per-view. Bless him. By the way, what a clothesline, Austin clothesline Dustin takes.
Mm-hmm.
Where Austin, they get kind of stuck on that, and Dustin just feeds this beautiful lariat. It was awesome.
And crowd reacts huge to it too.
Yeah, because it's like one of the few things that on its own looks sick, right? Like, because a lot of this is just kind of popping for the guys. Speaking of such, Jim Ross, how great is that line where he talks about Austin? He goes, "No more, Mr. Nice Guy," as if he ever was one. And I was like, God, Jim Ross had such a feel for that Steve Austin persona, didn't he? Like, painted him as a rebel, but painted him as a babyface and an underdog, like anti-hero, man. He called him perfectly. Amazing stuff. Anything else on the 98 Rumble?
I'd forgotten that Dude Love's finish was the sweet shin music, and he gives that to Dwayne in the closing stretch there. It's quite the piece of business. But yeah, I think, yes, if this was a modern Rumble that was 80 minutes long, I think the biggest compliment I can give this is it doesn't overstay its welcome. Everything kind of has its purpose. It goes in and goes out, and it's probably a hefty amount of nostalgia because I remember watching this as a kid and doing laps around the living room when Steve Austin won. But for the purposes of today, yeah, Dwayne took his opportunity and ran with it. I mean, I was joking about Jey Uso earlier, but that's like real. He was the Iron Man of that Royal Rumble last year, and I remember I don't remember a single thing he did in that match. Like, to them, it's just like the idea is you're in there for a while, and it's like you got to do something with it, man.
Yeah. He did do a Poison Rana, I think. Was that the year before? That was the year before.
A Poison Rana on a modern wrestling broadcast? I refuse to believe it.
Him and Jimmy, like, I love the Usos. I'm not trying to be a prick, but, like, their exchange at the start of that Rumble should have been like a bat signal, bro.
Yeah.
That was like, they were telling us something with that. Like, this is a bad idea. Avoid. Should have done a tag or something.
See, I say that, and like people listening to this who are younger than me are probably like, "Oh, it was great." And like my Iron Man that I always think of in my brain is Bob Backlund in the '93 Rumble. I think that performance is so fucking fantastic. But if I said that, there's people listening to this going, "What the fuck is he talking about?" So,
all right, these things happen. Ryan Adams in the super chat. JC Jane, it's a beautiful day. This is people are quite triumphant about this occasion. I wasn't prepared for this kind of jubilation, Oracle, if you will. It's very exciting times. It's a big night for Joel Promotions. I look forward to seeing the match. I hope it runs well. Thank you to Ryan for the super chat. And I hope it was a good one. I hope everyone enjoyed NXT. And we have a new champion, I hear. So, very exciting stuff. Thank you, Ryan. All right, let's move ahead. So, in the time between our matches here, as you mentioned, he works for Shamrock some more. He loses the IC title in the famed ladder match with Triple H that recently got, like, debated for some reason. I don't know. Some people hate it, I guess. Then he turns babyface. And then he turns back heel with the Russo switcheroo, the Russo magnum opus, as Bob and Oracle have described in the past, which is true. I use my platform to do this whenever possible. I don't believe everyone needs a magnum opus. But he leaves, Deadly Games back heel. And he and Mick Foley, Mick Foley trade the title back and forth. And we're about to cover some of that here. This is Halftime Heat. This is the empty arena match. One of the more daring, ambitious things they did, and kind of an iconic piece of business, right? Like, I think really a snapshot of the time and where they were at in terms of their popularity and what they were trying to achieve. This aired on January 31st. Of course,
Bob or Oracle, off the top of your head, you know who played in the Super Bowl?
Oh, very good.
Broncos Falcons.
Yeah.
Broncos beating the Falcons. Yeah.
Doing the wrong podcast, guys. Excellent work. Excellent.
And going up against this on the halftime show was Gloria Estefan, Stevie Wonder, and Big Bad Voodoo Daddy.
Incredible. So this is a direct rematch of the infamous Rumble match, right? Which I think we all quite like, but is obviously, I say infamous because of all that surrounds it and the 101 chair shots and such. Man, I need to, Alex, you're the best person, right, to ask for this, because this is very hard for me to. The only halftime heat I experienced was like a Ricochet tag on the WWE Network or wherever they posted it.
I forgot about that. Oh my God,
Yes.
that's right. Yeah.
I can't. The amount of people I hear tell stories about like this being a huge moment in the wrestling fandom, I can't even wrap my head around like genuine portions of the nation switching over to see whether Dwayne or Mick is going to leave with the strap before going back to the Super Bowl. Alex, best you can contextualize this where they're at this time as a promotion. This is a big moment in like wrestling history. I think it's a unique one. Alex, go for it.
Yeah, because if I understood correctly, it was not understood. If I remember correctly, watching it, it was in the middle of the Sunday Night Heat hour that it fell, and like they also had the thing of you can see. They had the ticker reminding people when the game was going to start back up and whatnot. And Vince, being Vince, you know, he does his pitch for the World Wrestling Federation in this match. He's like, if you've just tuned in and you're asking yourself, what the hell am I watching? Also, okay, I'm sorry, I need to go ahead and make a blanket statement. I'm going to say positive things about Vince McMahon's performances in this and the next match that we're talking about. Retweets are not endorsements, all right? So the idea was fucking crazy. I remember my dad being mad that we had to switch the TV over to it to watch halftime heat. But people don't understand. Like they were doing like nines and shit on TV, man. Like they could do no wrong at this point, and like any venture was one worth taking. It's honestly like when I look back on it now, it's kind of crazy they didn't try more outlandish things like this, considering like how many fucking people were watching wrestling every week. I think part of that's probably WCW. Even in early '99, they still would have been like on their coattails, so they didn't want to do anything too fucking crazy and like end up losing out big because the tides could turn at any point in time. But yeah, this was a really big undertaking, and I remember as my perspective as a kid, because I've always understood the significance of the Super Bowl and the National Football League being like the premier brand of professional sports. It didn't feel all that weird, because also something different from now that I think a lot of people have a hard time contextualizing. The Rock, to a certain extent, Mick Foley, Steve Austin were actual celebrities. The Rock, Steve Austin, and to a certain extent Mick Foley, were actual celebrities that you saw on television in line with like these other people. That's not really something we see that much anymore, unless it's like WWE Week on ESPN or some shit like that. So it was, it just speaks to how hot they were at the time. And yeah, it's a ridiculous spectacle on top of all that.
Indeed. So this is the year. Remember, this is the year with the famous ad, right? Where they're walking through. Is this that year or is that the year before?
Get it?
I think that's also this year.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it was this year because Sable's in it as a single star, and she wasn't in '98 yet.
Right. And so like that is important to know. A lot of this is it's so of its time that this was their way of like, this is how we're going to advertise wrestling. And it was the correct approach, don't be wrong, but like this was the correct route of attack in 1999 with these characters. Like at one point, Vince has that speech where he talks about, this is action adventure, soap opera, like all of that. It's like
it's Roadrunner.
They're basically explaining it, right? It's wild.
Real quick, I just wanted to, because I didn't call this out in my little tirade there. 6.6 rating. This did.
Insane. And like, look, I know this is huge
during the halftime Super Bowl.
Right, exactly. Like, I understand the Super Bowl number is huge, but the idea that people willingly turn to this and it's that many of them is unfathomable now, right? It's just you can't wrap your head around it. There's a lot to talk about here. This is a very hard match. I mean, we don't do star ratings on this program, God forbid. Bob does them privately. What a ridiculous bit that is coming from me, Bob, right? What a fucking ass. But this is like an impossible match to rate in traditional terms, right? This is a very unique thing. I don't know how you'd explain this, really, but this is a great thing to do on the Rock lineup.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's approached this, it's very fitting, really. Mick Foley's approach to this is, what if I just die consistently and like fall into things and fall down and get hit by things? And Rock's approach is, I will fill the dead air and erase any awkwardness with just my trash talk. It is an onslaught of Rock shtick. It's such a perfect thing to do. I didn't even realize how perfect it would be for this purpose. But this is a full, like, you just spend 20 minutes with the Rock, basically, right? In this situation. It's certainly memorable. It's a very unique piece of business. Oracle, what did you make of halftime heat here on rewatch, mate?
Oh, this match is a blast. I will point out. I always like Foley's story of him being super excited, right, about watching this. He's at the airport. He's huddled up with all these fans watching on the airport, and he didn't realize they had shot the finish the way that they did, which is the worst part of the whole thing. Is how they shoot the finish. And Mick was like livid because of how like the fake like. And he said like all these fans were like super into it and everything, and then like when they like changed the point of view of the camera and the finish, all the
really
fans
bad.
Like, oh, yeah. This is. He was like so mad about it.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get the bad part out of the way because I'm reminded of the Foley story.
It's really bad, dude. Yeah.
It's like, why did they do that? Like, why do they have to do the camera?
Because the rest of it you can believe is a fight. You can.
Right.
But that just, it breaks all immersion. It's terrible.
It was just, it was awful. Yes, Vince is excellent on commentary here. The part where he goes, it's like Days of Our Lives. Shit, and I was like, oh, fuck off. I was like, it's wrestling, goddamn it. You know, like, Foley takes an absolutely idiotic, ill-advised bump by deciding, oh, Dwayne, just throw me down a flight of fucking stairs.
With no fans, no adrenaline, just tumbling downstairs.
And mind you, this is days after he was handcuffed and took dozens upon dozens of unprotected chair shots to his skull, which is, you know.
And he's destroyed before that physically, right? This is already deep in Foley being beat up and depleted. Like,
like what an absolute fucking maniac that guy is. Like I can't think of anybody in wrestling who would. The only person who comes in this. Rarely do I bring modern wrestlers up like this. But Darby Allin's one of the only people I could think of who would do stupid like this.
Jeff Hardy.
Like, Jeff too. That's true, Jeff. Yeah. Like that would just like do shit that's like, why? Why are you doing this? But yeah, Mick just basically gets his ass kicked most of the match. The Rock is incredible here. Cutting promos, talking all kinds of shit. What was it that he gets? He goes, a little bit of Jack Daniels here.
Jack Daniels, please bring me to my knees.
That's not real alcohol, by the way. I don't know. The way that like that popcorn was wrapped up when Mick was hitting him with it, that shit looked like it hurt. Because like he was like fucking wailing. Like I'm sure it probably didn't hurt as bad as it looked, but it's like those first two shots sounded like that shit fucking hurt. Like I wouldn't think a bag of popcorn would hurt that bad, but The Rock was just hilarious throughout. Like there was a cotton candy stand. He goes, "Here you go. You here's some cotton candy for you, you fat son of some whatever the hell he called him." And
he says, "Cotton candy $5." Then Vince goes, "The prices venues charge these days are just ridiculous." He says something like that on commentary.
Of course, there's the clip that's I've seen a bunch of times. Is when they go into the office and there's and then they have the phone ring and The Rock picks it up and he what do you say? It's a SmackDown hotel, isn't that what he says?
That's iconic for sure.
Or if I stepped away for a second, did you cover? It was the part I thought you might. Did you talk about the salsa in the eye?
Oh fuck! Yes, that's right. I forgot about that.
To which Mick Foley paying homage to his mentor in the famous empty arena match, goes, "My eye!" He goes
That's
to the
right.
ground.
That's you know what? I popped at the spot, but I did not connect them until you just reminded me there.
Yeah.
That is outstanding. That is amazing. Because that shit. First of all, like when it happened, I was like, "Ow!" Sauce to the eye. That probably fucking hurt. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, just they brawl all over the place. Like Vince lays it out on commentary. We've got the kid, the backstage area, the locker room, and all this stuff. But they literally brawl ringside, up through the stands, and in the concession area, through the merch tables, into the locker room area. Of course, they go into the forklift. The part, and Vince points it out, but when Foley tells the guy to get off the lift, please.
He says, "Please."
The finish. But it fits because if you know the characters of the time,
Yeah.
Mick would be like kind of nice to the guy,
Mhm.
especially the Mankind character, like the Cactus Jack character would probably just beat the shit out of that guy, but like Mankind's character is gonna ask this guy nicely to get off of the the forklift so we can crush a guy with it. But yeah, this is like peak. This is at this point the Rock is like fully formed.
Yes.
Like a character. This is like he's been fully realized. He's fully confident in himself. Overall, as a performer, you don't get. I think he doesn't fully develop as an in-ring worker truly until the end of '99. I think he's pretty good by the end of '98 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like the Rock that we know, this is the first instance of like, oh, this is like corporate. The corporate Rock was like this. That's when he turned it on, and this is like a really good encapsulation of that.
Yeah, I don't know of any other. I mean, I'm sure there's some, but there's very few pairings in history that could have done this, I think, to this degree, and made it hit for people that liked wrestling and also did not really know anything about wrestling. I think their ability to pull this off is very much a credit to how uniquely gifted they both were and how their dynamic kind of just worked, right? The contrast worked, both together and opposite each other. Bobby, what did you make of Halftime Heat on this latest watch?
Yeah, real man. I'm a big fan of matches where it's falls count anywhere and they actually take advantage and go, all over the arena. They certainly did that here. As Alex and Oracle pointed out, Vince has the whole speech, also calls it's like Hollywood and Broadway and all points in between. So no pressure on these guys.
Points in between, all of them. Every one of them.
Yeah. It is funny too, like, because Vince just goes right back into like the play-by-play Vince, but then also has to still be a heel, so he has to try to like balance that. There's also a part where they're in the kitchen and they just kind of throw each other into a bunch of plates and all the plates break. That's great. Yeah, just a hell of a time, man. I like the finish. The way it's shot is stupid, yeah, but like I'm glad that like that was the finish. They could have shot a little better, but yeah, I had a great time.
Yeah, it's a blast. The finish is frustrating because I think the rest of it really walks like a tightrope between being funny and still feeling like a flat, which is really difficult to do with how funny this gets. But the finish just kind of throws it out the window, which is a shame. But I think it speaks to how great they are that, it seems like they managed to pull off something that the people producing it didn't even fully realize they were going for based on that last cut, which is, I think would be a tale of, sign of things to come. Alex, you did a wonderful job giving us context earlier. What did you make of this, watching it with 2025 eyes?
It really made me regret not buying Matt Botvin's shirt that he released for like the 20th anniversary of it. He did it wasn't last year for the 25th. He did the Super Bowl shirt where it's the two football helmets colliding, but one had a Brahma Bull on it, one had Mick Foley's like logo on it. And, Matty B, man, king of the game. Yeah, and again, we know what we know, and he's going to burn in hell. But Vince McMahon is tremendous in this match. Exactly what Bob said is we go back to fucking 80s Vince where he's trying to be the play-by-play guy, but then we'll like have to stand up for The Rock. And like his little comments he has for The Rock along the way, like Oracle called out, there's no alcohol now. A champion would not drink that. The part where The Rock sees that woman in the office and he turns to her, he's like, "What about you, honey? You want to get with the people's champ?" Vince on commentary goes, "Oh." And then the girl asks, You know, he's like, "Do you want a piece of the Rock?" And she's shaking her head like, "No." And Vince goes on commentary, "Of course she does."
Dude, how weird is that particular part of the whole thing? Like, it's bizarre, isn't it? Like the way it is presented, and what does Dwayne just get to step in?
Yeah, it's. One of the things I was thinking about watching this today, honestly, was how many times do you think they cut and were just kind of laughing about what they were doing? Like,
I presume a lot.
Yeah, it was. This seems like one of those things that was a lot of fun to put together.
Yeah.
All right, so what things we haven't touched on yet? What the hell am I watching? There's this incredible reveal. The Rock buries Mick Foley under some chairs, and then goes to the commentary table, and Vince like hands him the headset, like, spout your shit. And the Rock starts talking shit. And it's him and Vince standing. And the way they frame the shot, Foley then, his arm with Sacco on it rises from the stack of chairs in between them. And it looks like Jaws' fin. Like, and so he just like comes forward and you only see his hand in the air. It's a hilarious visual. The Rock hits Foley in the head with a trash can, to which I'm not fucking kidding. Vince McMahon goes, "Forget about it." The Rock then, when they're on top of the stairs, because Mick Foley's an insane person, of course he has to do something that really hurts him in this match when he takes that tumble down the concrete stairs. Mm-hmm. The Rock gets a running start, like punts him for that. And Vince McMahon goes, 3 points, right through the uprights, because it's a football broadcast we're talking about. I apologize. These are a lot of Vince quotes. When The Rock is beating Foley and then takes a bite of the popcorn, he goes, "It's too salty." And Vince goes, "That's right, the salty World Wrestling Federation champion doing his business right now," something like that. The My Eye, when The Rock comes with a tortilla chip and scoops some of the salsa off of Foley's face, and he takes a bite and he goes, "It's mild," to which he retorts with a punch. He takes, I think it's a squash, but it's some weird-looking vegetable off the catering desk. He goes, "The Rock doesn't even know what this is," and he hits Foley in the head with it. And Vince goes, "Some sort of nasty-looking squash on the table there." We do get the Vince laugh at one point, because it's The Rock talking shit, and he goes, "The Rock, our champion, with a great sense of humor." And then it gets to the end. Oracle called out the please thing, and yeah, all this is kind of like teetering on the point of like, yeah, this is pretty cool. Until they do that fucking POV shot of the
so terrible,
the forklift lowering and The Rock looking up, like, oh, this is a good time though. It's great, and it's, man, you want to talk about like a moment in time. And even I had to go back and look over that other halftime heat they did, and that was just basically like, was that on the network?
Yeah.
Okay.
They must have done it on like YouTube, right? They have to put it on YouTube, surely.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I think
and that was in 2019, so they could have said it was the 20th anniversary and whatnot. But this is a real just like fragment of a piece of history of a time.
It's so fitting. I'm not even saying it's a burial, but like it is so fitting that the way they represented wrestling in '99 was this, and in 2019 it was like a moves tag.
Hey.
You could write a book just based on that, right? That's like, it's perfect. But yeah, absolutely.
You also said it, Joe. The important thing to call out here is I'm not quite sure there's any other two people that could have pulled this off the way these two did.
Yeah, it's very impressive on their part. I got Riley since the Super Chat says, "I know 99 is bad in ring for the Fed, but it's halftime heat a top 10 WWF match of 99. I mean, just based on the fact as a pulse, it's got to be up there, right?"
We covered the Fed match of the year 99 in the Shane McMahon episode, and honestly, yeah, this would have to be, because fuck, man, what else is even up there? The Edge and Christian Hardy's tag, the ladder match.
I like the Rock Austin rematch from Backlash. I like that match.
Yeah, that's good. Butterbean and Bart Gunn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's got to be in there, dude. It has
Acolytes beating the shit out of Public Enemy. That's in the top 10.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so, right?
That's what they get for turning down a contract 4 years prior.
Yeah. There you go. Take that. They're going to bring it up on every documentary for the rest of time, so it will be brought up regularly. Thank you, Riley. Hope you're having a good night, man. Appreciate the support. All right, let's put a bow on Act 1. Hilariously, Aaron, 25 minutes in here. Other matches to call out for The Rock before he becomes the guy in Austin's absence. I say it was the best way I kind of put a end to the era. So I think we just mentioned Backlash 99. You've got to call out matches we've already mentioned, like the ladder match with Triple H, right?
Shamrock.
Rumble 99 with Foley. Yeah, what is is it Ken and Foley that he's in the cage with? They have a triple threat.
Breakdown 98.
Breakdown 98.
He's so over, right? The crowd is like ready. Yeah. Those ones kind of, any others you guys want to call out before we move to him as a babyface ace?
The DX match with Austin, if you've never seen it, Austin's very limited what he can do, so it's like a big spectacle match. That's there. The WrestleMania 15 it's the weakest of their trilogy, but there's still some electricity to that match he has with Austin in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be some 8-mans the Nation has that are pretty solid. Yeah.
Yeah, that covers it broadly. Any others, boys? Oracle, Bobby, anything come to mind you want to call out before we get to babyface? Full babyface Dwayne.
There's the Raw where he pins Undertaker. I don't know how good the match is, but it's a match worth seeing just because
significant.
He beats Taker. This is in the build to Survivor Series 98.
Yeah,
or right around there. He pins Taker, which was a huge deal. The Raw after Survivor Series, which we might cover if we ever do an Austin Rock rivalry, that match in Louisville, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the I Quit match with Foley. I think that match is amazing, but it's also disgusting, but it's awesome at the same time.
Also frayed their relationship for years and years, but that's kind of been erased to history because they're buddies now.
Right.
It's the same as how, and I'm not saying this to knock either party because I don't care, it's none of my business, but when I think it was Conrad hinted that Austin didn't want to be involved at Mania 40 because he and Rock are on weird terms again, and people reacted to that like they were best friends for him. It's they had a prickly, right? Top guys, the relationship's up and down. It's not. I think sometimes history kind of glosses over some of those rough edges, and I think people lose sight of the. It's competitive and it's prickly and
still exists. For those who've ever listened to Mick Foley's commentary track on Beyond the Mat, he's not particularly nice to old DJ.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think you're right. That would pretty shock people today, I think. Okay, so I think we're ready to move forward here. Act 2. We are headed to Backlash 2000. Again, we stressed earlier, it's soon to be, full babyface Rock coming out of WrestleMania 15. And when Steve Austin goes down, it becomes very apparent that Dwayne has got to be the guy, right? And I think while Alex is correct what he said earlier about Austin being kind of the one seed in terms of business between them, Rock's ability to just slot in speaks to how great he was, but also it speaks to how sharp their creative was in that time. That 2000 is, it would be interesting if you could transport 98 Austin to 2000 WWF creative, right? Just as a science experiment almost, because they're really sharp at this time.
Chris Kresge, man, rest in peace, brother. That dude was on fire for them.
So yeah, certainly it's hard not to kind of look in his direction with how different it was, to be honest.
That's still there's part of me that still thinks 2000 is their best year creatively and in ring.
Yeah, it's a wild time. We are going to stop by Backlash 2000, April 30th, 2000. For one of The Rock's most famed dance partners in Triple H, to this day, I guess, but seriously, in ring, those guys had a real chemistry, right? Genuine chemistry.
I think
go for it, mate.
I'm just adding to your point. I think they legitimately brought out the best in each other because this match is a great example. Just the intensity that this match starts with is
yes.
Even with Austin, on the Rock as Rock's dancing partner, it always felt like when he was in there with Triple H at a high level, it really well, then 25 years later, same thing, but it really amps it to a different level.
Yeah, there's a real physical chemistry there and an intensity, as you mentioned. This is, I saw someone, I was looking at the Pro Wrestling Only thread for this, and someone said this is Austin's, this is Rock's Over the Edge 98, right?
Yes.
And that's a very apt comparison.
Mhm.
Shane McMahon is special guest referee. Stephanie McMahon is at ringside. The Stooges get involved. The works. This is very of its time. If you've never seen Attitude Era WWF and you watch this, you may love it or you may be like, what is this? Right. And I understand both reactions because this is very of its time. This is an incredible Jim Ross call, who I think is the best thing about the whole thing. And I like the match a lot, but oh my goodness, he is just unbelievable.
Man.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about here. This is very kind of indicative of 2000, the top, feud of 2000. This is Rock's big moment as a babyface where he gets the title that, if we're being honest, this should have closed WrestleMania 16, right? This whole thing should have closed WrestleMania 16.
Oh, yeah.
But, McMahon in every corner and things of that nature. Bob O'Neill, Triple H, The Rock, Backlash 2000. What did you think, mate?
Yeah, it was a great time. Alex brought up the intensity, and just like even before the match, when Rock's just kind of doing the stuff on the turnbuckle, he's just fixated on Triple H, and I thought that was a really cool touch. The match itself, as far as an in-ring thing, like there are some nice moments in it, but it all kind of comes down to the shenanigans and getting everyone involved and getting Shane out of there, and Vince gets involved and Stephanie, and you're all just kind of building to Austin, and even when they're in the part where Austin's going to come out, it's still just that waiting, and they were so good at that. You see it so many times, and obviously, Austin comes out, takes everyone out, and it's over. And you see Austin and Rock kind of celebrate together one time, and it's really nice. It's I think putting it as Rock's Over the Edge 1998 is a really good way to put it, because that is basically what it is.
And I do think Triple H and The Rock deserve a lot of credit. At the start of this match, they want, we want Austin is their response right to the first bell. And they do a fabulous job of reclaiming their attention and getting the people into the physicality before the inevitable, 101 set pieces. And they do a great job with when it's just the wrestling match. They do a really good job of keeping the people engaged, which, as we've seen in the years since and see regularly nowadays, that is very hard to do. If the people know shenanigans are coming, it's very hard to get them reacting the way they got them here. So, and very, very strong. Go on, Bob.
The double rock bottom through the table was also really cool.
Yeah, very, very cool. Contrarian Alex, what did you make of? And this is one you fought for, right? You wanted to include this, Backlash 2000.
Oh, yeah.
Say that, Alex? Yeah, go for it, mate. Take it away.
Yeah, it's either this or 98. Over the Edge 98 is like the definitive Attitude Era match of like the excess and the overbooking and like the melodrama and shit like that. But it all comes together to make something absolutely fantastic. And don't get me wrong, they fell on their face more than once trying to like do this shit. But like, man, this match is just unbelievable. In a trend that would continue pretty much from this point forward, champion or not, The Rock comes out second. So Shane and Francine come out first, and Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. His tan borders on problematic here, I got to say, for Triple H. But I mean, the question has to be posed: this was better than the Motorhead theme, right?
He's got some great themes, dude. Yeah. I don't know, and they're very close. He's got some incredible. Triple H is probably the all-time great theme music wrestler, right?
I love this. Yeah. I love this theme, Alex, and I also like the just plain instrumental one. That's like the one that's just the instrumental without the lyrics.
Oh yeah,
that was good too. Yeah,
he used that Armageddon 2000. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Joe, give me a minute here to speak to my fellow Americans. Did y'all catch when Jerry Lawler said that Janet Reno needs to bust out the stormtroopers to find out?
Yes, I absolutely did.
And Jim Ross goes, well, I don't think Janet Reno knows. She doesn't know come here from Sikkim, which is a very Southern way of saying someone's a fucking idiot. And he goes, she doesn't know come here from Sikkim. And it's quiet. And Lawler goes, what? And then they just move on to the next thing. Janet Reno was Bill Clinton's attorney general, and hilariously was portrayed on Saturday Night Live by Will Ferrell. And there was a reoccurring skit called Janet Reno's Dance Party. So moving on. What Bob called out there of The Rock getting to do his pose, but then he stares down because Triple H is right in front of him, and he stares at him very intently. That was the opening of No Mercy for the Nintendo 64. They had the digitized version of their characters doing that with each other. So that is obviously burned into my brain. The intensity, everything has such snap and flow to it. There's really no wasted motion or there's really no lull in this match. And for as much of a spectacle it becomes at the end, it's still like there's 17 or 18 minutes until they get there, and they're working just like a pro wrestling match. Shane takes a hilarious bump off a rock punch where he backflips over the top rope. We get the double rock bottom, which is incredible. And possibly the funniest call of Jerry Lawler's career, when Vince and everybody's hitting the ring and they're beating the shit out of the Rock. He goes, "Can you call this fair?" And Jerry Lawler goes, "Well, I can't really call this match. That's your job." And then Lawler, JR is very apoplectic at this. And this has to be the greatest run-in of all time, right? The glass shatters, crowd goes nuts. Steve Austin wears the fuck out of all these people with a steel chair. It's
Joe Briscoe, God bless him.
Oh my God, dude. Jesus.
I like Patterson, and Austin too is so ramped up, and he's admitted Steve's got a bit of a paunch here. He said he'd just been drinking beers and eating cheeseburgers back at home because he was depressed about not being able to wrestle. So he comes out here, and I think he's really wanting to lay this in. Patterson knows it too because he does this shit. He's like, no. And Gerald Briscoe eats one. Shane gets his head taken off. He lays out Vince and does the Stone Cold thing where at no point is he really defending The Rock. He's just there to kick ass and leave. I do appreciate the urgency from Triple H here, though, of like he tries to cut off Steve Austin, and then he tries to do it again and gets laid out, and even up until the finish, he's trying. He's like basically just clawing at like whatever he can to hopefully hang on. The reveal where Steve is walking out and the camera walks with him, and then you see Linda McMahon and Earl Hebner coming in. The kids today call that cinema, and it's really not. It's just like understanding how to frame a shot and like telling people where to hit their marks and shit. And it looks great here. And the Linda McMahon Stephanie stuff was so like fucking stupid, but you can tell by the crowd here, they bid on it and they bought it, and it works out. And Earl Hebner, of course, not only Bob's favorite referee, but being fired by the McMahon Helmsley regime for his practices. Fellas, Triple H charges The Rock. The Rock hits the spine buster and turns to the crowd to tease the people's elbow. And there's
The camera is shaking.
Grown men, women, children. They're like jumping up and down. They show a wide shot of the crowd where like he's not even in position to do it yet, and people sense they just like they hope what's coming. And of course, he hits the people's elbow. Linda McMahon orders Earl Hebner in there. I have called this out several times on here before. I know some people don't like it. I loved Earl Hebner when it was the finish. He would slow his count down just a little bit to add to the drama of the moment. He does that here, and he hits 3. And man, like this whole pay-per-view is good. This whole pay-per-view was vastly superior to WrestleMania the month before. And this should have been the WrestleMania main event, but it feels like, honestly, because we had to eat shit with that WrestleMania 16 main event, that's why the crowd reacts so much more positively here. And yeah, man, this ain't some bell-to-bell classic, but this with Warrior Savage, it's not that either, but it's what we've talked about. The WWF, when their formula works well, like it can create like true magic, and this match is an example of that.
You mentioned the reaction when he gets ready to the people's elbow. I increasingly think that is like the moment before the pinfall. I actually think is more special sometimes. Like, you know, when a big happening, a big title change, a big result, that moment where the people realize they do the maths in their head, you know, like never really a shock outcome's great. Like a 1, 2, 3 out of nowhere is great. But the moment what happens there is the people look around the scene and they realize Rock has all the answers now, you know, like Austin is. It's more, to me, that's more satisfying than the 1, 2, 3 in a strange way. Like they're ready, you know. Jake brings up a perfect example. Goldberg and Hogan's a perfect example of that. Kofi winning the strap, I think, is a perfect example of that. When he's getting ready for the final, like that moment where the people almost survey the scene, and it's like it's happening. Get ready. You know, like I just think that's like a drug. Right?
We talked about one of them when Luger clears out all the NWO before he picks Hogan up for the rack. You can see people like looking around, like, well, who's going to run it? And then when he gets them up, they realize like it's happening and whatnot. And that's you know, and I don't want to discredit that as like the chief executive of It Used to Be Better. That happened when Cody, when he was picking Roman up for that third Crossroads at WrestleMania last year. That was the same thing. People realized like everyone's gone, like this is it, and
it still happens. Yeah, absolutely. I think actually, in some ways, because the fans are so clued in now, it's like what they expect to happen. I think it's almost more dramatic, right? Because I think a lot of fans now, like, they know exactly what they're expecting to happen in a bloodline. I mean, even when I was there, to a lesser extent, but when I was there when Jay pinned Roman, remember when Roman hadn't been pinned for like 4 years?
Yeah.
And Jay went up for the splash, like people knew it was going to happen. And that was magic, dude. It's like intoxicating. It's cool. Eddie and Brock's another one. Eddie and Brock's another great example.
Oh, that's an excellent one. But yeah, I think the biggest compliment to this match is even when Steve Austin came back, which is like what sold that pay-per-view and what those people bought tickets to see. The pops, they just grew. Like they kept like building on top of each other. And it wasn't like Elizabethtown, they say we peaked on the phone. It wasn't like the match peaked here. It built to and that's what happened with Cody and Roman also. So yeah, it's what it can be, brothers, and it's a joyous to watch.
Indeed, Oracle, a memorable one or a special one. What did you make of this on your latest watch, man?
Oh, I've seen this match probably a dozen times.
Right.
This was, I believe we got this show when it aired, and it's a match that has always stuck with me because it was it was the first match that like sticks out to me of like the babyface finally triumphant when I was a kid, and you know, in a big time match. So this one always sticks out with me. JR makes a comment that things have changed in 25 years for the better. Pat Patterson runs out and he goes, "Oh, the Pride Parade must be over. Look who's here." And I'm just reminded of all the bits they did to poor Pat.
Every line they say is like
every line to Pat. It's like the same one from the unopposed Raw where they had their largest rating ever a year before.
Yeah,
where the Stooges wrestled the Mean Street Posse, and Patterson and Briscoe took their shirts off for celebrating, and JR goes, "Guys, he's single." He makes a great line.
When there was that pay-per-view where Patterson slapped Sable on the ass, and JR goes, "What would he know about that?"
Yes.
Which makes it all the more startling that 15 years later on Legends House, they Patterson being gay is like a swerve.
Yes.
What the fuck was anyway? Enough about Pat Patterson, right? Put in all the time.
Great working punch.
I wanted to bring it up because I was a little surprised Alex didn't. But yeah, the credit to Pat for getting his arms up though when Steve swung the chair like Alex mentioned, because
he knew
was not ready for it evidently because when Jerry came into the frame, he just fucking took it full head on. Like I'll never forget that chair shot that Briscoe took, man. Like holy shit,
he's fucking awesome, dude. He's so awesome.
I mean, Austin was swinging. Yeah, this is a classic match. Like, it's not it's what I would call one of their sports entertainment masterpieces in WWE.
Yeah,
with like all their melodrama and shit. That like it's kind of like the Attitude Era, the Attitude Era's version of like like the early sports entertainment matches were like Hogan Savage WrestleMania 5, Hogan Warrior WrestleMania 6, Warrior Savage, WrestleMania 7. This was like this, and Over the Edge 98 were the Attitude Era's version of like their sports entertainment spectacle, and that's what Cody and Roman really was last, because Cody Roman at 39 was much more of a straight wrestling match with a shitty finish.
Yeah.
40 was definitely a sports entertainment spectacle. But yeah, one of the 10 or 12 matches. The other ones kind of probably on a much lower tier that you can kind of look at in the history of the 40-year history since since Hogan came in, of like the sports entertainment matches that you think of, that style of match that they perfected. And this is up there. Just an incredible. As I really like what Alex said about the pops building on one another. It's a rarity in wrestling. When they pull it off, it's pretty magical even still to watch today. They have that great moment where Austin and Rock have like the salute to one another and stuff with the beer bash, and it was kind of a way for, I don't know, I kind of look at it as like a way of like, I think it really helped Rock, because when Austin does that, it kind of solidifies Rock as like, he already was when Austin was hurt. People just wanted to, from the time Survivor Series 99 until this, people were really kind of just like, Austin. And
it's a stamp of approval in it.
Yeah, it's like after that, the fans were like okay with Rock being the top guy for the next 6 months until Steve came back. Like it was less. It felt more right. Yeah, it felt more solidified after that. So I think it's in a lot of ways it's kind of a special moment because it solidified Rock. It's the only time Rock was ever the guy.
Yeah.
In the company, and he was only the guy for 10 months. When Austin went out, up until Austin came back, November '99 to September 2000. Those
and
are
he's
the only
chasing
for
Rock
most was ever the guy.
Yeah,
but it's and Backlash is right in the center of that, and Austin's solidifying that with him, kind of it highlights that this was The Rock's time as the top guy. It's actually kind of surprising how brief his time was as the top guy.
Dude, by this time next year, he starts his part-time run for the rest of his career.
Yep, he's part-time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and of course, like I said, when Austin comes back in September, and they move and they go and the Raw goes back to TNN, Austin's already top guy again. And like Rock's still 1B, you know what I mean? But he was always going to be the 1B to Austin's 1A, and so when Austin was out, it kind of it's obviously the neck surgery was unfortunate, but also something that had to happen. But like it gave Rock that's how hot they were, right? They had Austin and Rock, and Austin was so big. And of course, Rock's probably even more of a household name in some ways now because of his Hollywood
for
career.
sure now, yeah, definitely.
But at the time, like Austin was so big that Rock couldn't even be the top guy, because Austin was. It was just such a unique situation, the Attitude Era, and how big those two got.
It's like comical at this point to think that they had both those guys on top at the same
Oh,
point.
it's insane, and not to mention third. And I know Foley's more of like a hardcore fan traditional kind of guy, But Foley was their 1C, and he's an amazing,
yeah.
And they had all three of those guys,
Well, I don't know. I was watching the history of WWF, and it told me that Triple H was the driving force.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, right, sure.
While on the subject, Rock never did merch numbers like Steve Austin when Steve Austin was in his prime. But the little nugget of knowledge I have about The Rock that I always like to drop is in the year 2000, The Rock headlined 100. He headlined 100 shows that sold over 10,000 tickets. Like that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's one. Oracle, how you feel about that? They had over 100 shows in a year one time. Now Rhea Ripley's going to wrestle 7 times this year.
Yeah, God Almighty.
I'm just looking here at his match count. Dwayne wrestled less matches. He wrestled 855 matches according to Cage Match. Chad Gable is at 913, dude. Like, and that's a random, but I just said
harder, not harder, brother.
He's mid 2010s guy, right? Like it's just bonkers. Liv Morgan will maybe not now because the schedule different, but she's like not that far off. Okay, couple of things on this. You mentioned that bump Shane takes. If this was 10 years later, dude, Shane would have stood there and fucking traded with him in the pocket. They would have had like a 10-minute punch exchange. And then Rock would have like low blowed him and get the upper hand or something like that. I always loved the way Triple H sold Dwayne's punches. Because Triple H was legitimately great at like selling a punch or a chop rather than just, now they do the hands up, right? Like he actually feed his chin and sell. Great timing on those.
Yeah, and it's hard to really like be positive about Paul these days. We need to call out. This was the year that Triple H was the fucking guy. Like even
he's awesome in this, dude. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and 2000 is without question the best year of his entire career.
Oh, for sure.
And
look, I'm all for fun and games. We cannot follow a segment with extensive Vince and Pat praise with. I guess we'll give Triple H his due. Come on, guys. He's great in this. Triple H, at his best, Triple H was a great pro wrestler. The issue is...
And he took it off from Shane Douglas.
60% of his game... Well, that's another conversation for another day. 60% of his game here is like how great of a bumping heel he is. And once he gets bigger and he gets injured, when you take that out of his game, he does become like a genuinely uninteresting wrestler. But how he's bumping here on some of those clotheslines and oh my goodness,
that's how we can pivot it. Talk about that, but then go to God. He fucking sucked in 2002 when he came back, dude. He was immobile. If you put a fucking Post-it on his back, he wouldn't be able to get it off. He fucking sucked, dude.
One great Jim Ross touch. This is something that I think is such a lost art. The reason Jim Ross is frustrated with Triple H is because he says the game is good enough without all of this, which is so money, dude. Because the point is that Triple H is a great wrestler who's such a coward. He would rather surround himself with all of this backup, right? All this safety net, which means when he's beating up The Rock, as a fan, you're like, I get he's beating up The Rock because he's a great wrestler. 15 years later, David Otunga said on commentary that Justin Bieber could beat up The Miz. And as he was saying that, The Miz was beating the fuck out of Dolph Ziggler on TV. And I remember thinking, like, I get you're trying to give shit to the heel, but you should always stress that like the reason the heel is a dick is because he doesn't need to do all this to compete. Now, The Miz is different, but you get my point here, right? Like the heat is that the guy is great and he's such a coward. He needs the backup. That's the fucking point. So that was great.
So you're telling me Triple H was pretty good, but he insulated himself within the McMahon family to keep the title and, due to insecurity and whatnot.
I mean, that's not what I said at all, but I respect that being the conclusion. All right, let's move forward here. So in time, we have a lot that happens between matches here. A lot happens. Obviously, Rock stains the top guy there, and then Austin comes back, and it's inevitable, right? Collision calls Rock and Austin. WrestleMania 17, which really is in so many ways the end of an era, right? WCW, all Austin turns heel, which turns off many fans. Rock, as Alex mentioned, is onto a part-time chapter in his career that honestly will be very short-lived because he goes from being part-time to very little time at all very soon after that. Obviously, WrestleMania 17 is a classic match. We'll talk about that one day on the rivalry show. He floats around. He comes back in 2002 for what many believe to be the height of his. Am I still here, guys? My audio apparently is cutting out.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool.
You're dipping there for a second.
All right, good. I'm glad I'm back. In 2002, Rock produces maybe the pretty sharpest run of his career, bell to bell, right? That brief run, summer of 2002, culminating with dropping the belt to Brock.
What was we were saving that triple threat in case we ever do an angle Grin Grappler, I think.
Yeah, angle, yeah. Because we did the Eddie match on the Eddie show, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So that's a great run for The Rock. He famously, he's booed against Brock, and he has some fun with that afterwards, right? He has a little bit of fun with the crowd afterwards. And that, of course, ultimately sparks Hollywood Rock, which is mentioned earlier, short run that's remembered very fondly, the presentation of such, and the Jack Crosby says it's the greatest theme in wrestling history and things of that nature. And that is that's a short run that is most famous for the Steve Austin match, which is my personal favorite, of theirs, and the Goldberg happening, in which he leaves it by introducing Goldberg. which we talked about on another Grin Grappler. But I think third, if you were listing things that people remember most about Hollywood Rock, I think you could argue actually maybe even Pips Goldberg, is the Hurricane stuff, which we have to be honest, and I'm not saying this match isn't good because it's very fun. But we have to be honest, people remember the backstage segments, they remember the result, right? They remember, oh my God, Hurricane won, and they remember the backstage interactions. This did happen, though. Was this the go home?
Was this March 10th? No.
March 10th.
Yeah, it's probably a couple weeks.
It's the last match he had before that, and I'll wait until we're done talking about it because The Rock. It was the last match he had on TV, but he has a very interesting pit stop on the way to WrestleMania 19.
Okay, cool. So he loses the Hurricane here en route to Steve Austin in the third match. This is a no DQ match purely in order to make that happen. The backstage segments are memorable, and the one on this show culminates with a Rock right hand to floor Hurricane. Much happening here, very light, very sports entertainment. I'm going to go back to that phrase, and I don't mean that as a pejorative. It's what it is, right? It's very silly and very light, very breezy. But a nice little look at Hollywood Rock here that isn't, a match we've already covered or a match we're going to cover down the line. So pretty fun deal here, pretty cute piece of business. Bob, what did you make of this on your this is your wheelhouse, brother? 2003.
Yeah, man. I remember watching this. It was a fun little, couple weeks because Austin Rock kind of built itself at that point. It was the third time they were doing it, and Rock just kind of needed something after coming back and not winning the Battle Royal to challenge Triple H for the title. So they did this little Hurricane thing, and it's a fun time. I mean, it's kind of like, no, never mind. I was going to say it's kind of like the Triple H Jim Ross match, but it's really not because Hurricane gets a lot of good stuff in here. I shouldn't do that to Hurricane.
Yeah. But it's hard to find a comparison because one thing about The Rock's career, one thing about his career, he really did interact with everyone, didn't he? Which was certainly of its time. It was also Austin, I think, would be a lot more hesitant to play ball with the amount of characters that Rock played ball with. So it's nice to include this for that reason. Go for it, Bobby.
You get Rock in the Hurricane cape. That's very funny. He's kind of just doing, and JR calls it out, like schoolyard bully stuff for the first couple minutes. Then, Hurricane gets serious. And he gives Hurricane really more than I think a lot of top guys would have, kind of like you just said. And, Austin comes out, Hurricane rolls him up, gets the big win. And that's what all the people remember. But, it does a lot for Hurricane, too. It kind of makes him he's still kind of a comedy guy or whatever, but he's a guy that of those guys you could take more seriously now. And he kind of parlayed that into the next 8 or 9 years that he worked there.
Dude, what year was it? 2019, maybe? He comes out and gets a pop in the Rumble. One of those years. That doesn't happen. People remember the character. That only happens, though, because he got this thing here. Remember him more because of this. 100. And he's said that a million times. He would agree with that assessment. It should be said, though. Damn good pro wrestler, Shane Helms. And one thing he did really well was he adjusted his game to fit this character. He doesn't pretty get enough credit for that. Shane Helms was really good, and he's really good in this match as a traditional underdog babyface.
He's also possibly one of the only smart pro wrestlers. I just want to.
It only seems that way. Good follow on the Twitter gimmick. Good follow. Jim Ross is again brilliant on this. At one point, he hits "This is America. We don't quit on anything," which I laughed out loud at.
Okay, so I want to point that out. This was right when the war on terror and war in Iraq and stuff was starting.
Oh,
yes.
So I would be willing to bet that was
100%, dude. 100% that was not a JR original.
I think that was right around the time of the bombing of Baghdad.
March. It was in March.
The third. They do that deal where on the third try he gets the choke slam and JR does the cover him kid, make yourself famous. JR is he's amazing on this match. Tremendous stuff. What did you make of this? Rock and Hurricane, what do you think?
Joe, you're going out a little bit, but I did hear you.
Okay, very strange.
But I actually thought this was, and I mean this in a positive way, a comedic version of Flair, going the distance with Brad Armstrong or some shit. Obviously, those Flair matches are treated more seriously in the 80s. But it kind of reminded me with how much offense that Helms had. Kind of reminded me of those matches. Obviously, the finish is nowhere near the same. And the finish is the weakest part of the match. Like, it's cool that Hurricane got the win. I don't even mind the roll up, but like the distraction finish, I don't think was executed as well as it could have been and all that jazz. But yeah, this was just a super fun feud that someone who was a 10-year-old at the time loved, and I was a big Hurricane fan, like the gimmick. Helms is a really good wrestler, and he's like somebody that like it's one of those times where like I watch him and he's good enough in this to where like I'm definitely watching, like a Hurricane test match that I find on Heat one day, like this shit like that. Like he's just he's just the type of worker that like pops me. He's just clearly a guy that probably had a bunch of good TV matches. Ruthless aggression. But yeah, this is a super fun time. I don't know if it was the sound or the town that they were in or what, but I was taken aback by Austin not really getting like as big of a pop as I thought he would when he came out.
Yeah.
It was actually kind of sad and disappointing, and kind of makes me wonder if the pops would have waned over time, but I don't know. They were everything surrounding the booking for the most part was so bad that eventually it even hits the top guys,
Yeah.
It was very strange though. Like when he left, they conditioned their audience to think he was a pussy and a bitch. Like, and then they brought him back. It was
there you go. That's true. Very true. Very true.
That was stupid, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully I'm sounding okay, folks. I remember my mic's fouling me here, but hopefully we're doing okay. Clue me in, boys, as we go here. All right. Alex, Hurricane, Rock, what did you think, mate?
Very good time. The boys have covered it for the most part. The one thing I did not hear anyone cover, and something that caught my eye for the majority of this match, is a young lady, approximately 9 or 10 rows back, had a sign that said, "Hey, Papa, pump this," with an arrow pointing down. It was incredibly aggressive, and I was kind of intrigued or potentially motivated to watch the rest of the show to see if Scott Steiner comes out and sees it and he goes, "Ha!" But I didn't have that kind of time today.
Someone like those Triple H matches.
Oh shit! Yeah, this is fun. This is it's not Dwayne being bored, but it's Dwayne obviously in a position where he can just kind of like, yeah, I'm going to do this. Because he also in this run wrestled Jeff Hardy on a match, so I think he just got it in his mind that he wanted to wrestle Jeff Hardy just to say he could. And Shane Helms is quite excellent in this. Jim Ross is great because Jim Ross has the arc in this of when it starts, he literally says, "Folks, you may want to put the children to bed. This is going to get ugly." And then he starts to believe more and more in the Hurricane as it goes along, and it's it would be more innocuous if it wasn't the 9th last match that Dwayne Johnson had. And, it's fun to revisit. It's also a really great TV match. And it's indicative of, like, by this point, and we're only fucking 5 years removed from the first match we covered here, how The Rock can just control an entire audience, like with what he does in matches. And that's what he does here. So yeah, very fun. Very glad we included this. I think it's kind of the perfect pit stop on the Hollywood Rock journey.
I agree. There's a lot of goofiness here with Rock, and I think it's fitting. That was a big part of his career and his identity. Very, very fun.
If I may,
yes, mate.
5 days later, so it would have been that Saturday night on the 15th of March in 2003. A very little discussed. It did kind of come to light when Brock Lesnar's book came out, but a very little discussed piece of Dwayne Johnson lore. The final house show Dwayne Johnson ever wrestled, he headlined the SmackDown house show in Miami, Florida, again on March 15th of 2003, in which he got his win back over Brock Lesnar.
God fucking bless.
Wow.
He pinned heel Rock, pinned babyface Brock Lesnar in his march going to the belt at WrestleMania.
Brock was pissed about that in his book, right? Or something.
Yeah.
Okay, look, I know we're short on time because we've gone 2 hours already, but I'm afraid this is an opportunity. Alex, do you have the full card by any chance?
Brother, I do.
Please take it away.
We open up hot with Rikishi beating Bill DeMont.
Oh, fuck yes.
I'm not kidding. I saw this match live at it was the pre-show match at Survivor Series 2003, and it got the fucking house rocking. Tajiri defeating Jamie Noble. Just stick with me here. Brian Kendrick, Sean O'Hare, and Sergeant Slaughter defeated Chuck Palumbo, Johnny Stamboli, and Nunzio.
Oh, I bet Sarge is incredible in that one.
Rhino defeated Canyon, so I guess Rhino was better than.
Come on.
Matt Hardy defeats Rey Mysterio for the Cruiserweight title in a Cruiserweight title match. So basically, they're just... And this is where it gets really interesting because they're just doing the dry runs for WrestleMania. Nathan Jones and The Undertaker defeat A-Train in the Big Show.
Uh-oh.
So they were still trying to... This might have been the one where me and Mark was like, not going to happen, brother. In a Joe Holbert special, we got Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin defeating Chavo and Eddie Guerrero.
I bet that was good. I bet that was very good.
To cool the crowd down before the main event, Tori Wilson defeats Nydia, and then The Rock defeats Brock Lesnar. Estimated attendance of 5,500 at the American Airlines Arena. That's so funny to me. That's such a Hogan move that The Rock had to get his win back.
God bless him, too. He knows he knew business.
He did the right thing.
Yeah, he did.
It paid off in Miami 10 years later, dude. So, play the long game. All right. Let's call out some other matches here before Rock becomes fully, out of the game. We got to talk about the Iron Man with Triple H needs to be acknowledged.
Absolutely, yeah.
We mentioned Mania 17. We mentioned Vengeance 02.
Armageddon, Hell in a Cell, the 6-way.
Yes.
Great call. Mania 19, obviously.
Kurt Angle No Way Out on one match is amazing until the box finish, but still.
What about
they did
Hogan, dude? Hogan? Shit.
Yeah, WrestleMania 18.
Yeah.
Don't have to name drop, but I will just say that Fully Loaded 2000 is one of the better Attitude Era pay-per-views, top to bottom, and The Rock's in the main event of that in a good match.
Yeah.
The No Mercy match where Angle wins the belt is a good match, too, until they fucking shovel in Rikishi at the end. God, yeah, it just seemed like he could honestly do no wrong at that point in time. The 2001 Royal Rumble match, he's a very central part of, and that's one of the best. That is a classic Royal Rumble match.
Unbelievable.
Yes,
I'll never forget the stare off with him in Austin, where like because the way that they film it, and again, the kids would call it cinema, but it's not. But the way they film it, where the Rock's like in a corner and Austin is, and they both stare at each other from across the ring.
There's a Kane match Oracle threat to get on.
Oh yes,
we also
match is great, dude. Legit.
The last one before he's like done for a long time is Mania 20, which we covered, right? Which is fun too. So.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah. The Jeff Hardy match on Raw too, I also remember being fun. But yeah, it's got to a point where at this point in time, when he got to like the sporadic period of his career, there weren't any misses. I think that'll come in the next act that we're about to talk about. Maybe,
or maybe not.
Oh, good call out from Donovan. He had a singles match with RVD because the story goes with that. The story goes he just wanted to work with him, and he took one of the greatest gores of all time on a random Raw. I remember Rhino gored him, and The Rock did like a backflip off of it.
Of course. So I think we have to talk about, to understand the Cena match, I think we have to talk about his relationship with wrestling and wrestling fans in the 8 years.
Yeah.
Well, I should say 7 years. There is, like, Cena's whole thing and whole rhetoric in the build-up to that match is not something that was like a John Cena invention, right? There was absolutely a resentment that in some ways, I guess the Hollywood Rock thing leaned into inadvertently. It seems to me, and I'm not an expert on this because it's not my time period necessarily, but it seems like there was a resentment towards what Rock had done, and more specifically, the way he had distanced himself from wrestling, which, as we now know, was saying that was kind of, I think, recommended to him, right, to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
Alex, I know you've talked at length about Rock's, like, movie exploits. So with that in mind, if it was like you're the best person to go to, like straight away here, how would you explain that kind of journey, that relationship?
So real quick, I'm going to work in a cheap pop here. The Contrarians 3 years ago did a journey into, we did a 10th year retrospective on The Rock and John Cena from WrestleMania 28. It was a 5-part series. We clocked in like 15 hours on this shit. But a big part of that was tracking the careers of John Cena and The Rock, both in movies, talking about the build. And the big part of that was focusing on The Rock and his time away would do that thing of, he would establish like, I know where I came from and I was appreciated, but he also, there was that time period he got kind of skinny, and then like he had like long hair and stuff, and like I think he was trying some different things. And one of the things that was like in 2008 was John Cena did an interview. It was I believe it was a British outlet. Wasn't Late Night Grin. That was before the time. But anyway, they asked him about The Rock, because The Rock at that point was like what Hulk Hogan was in 1993, where people who didn't know shit about wrestling just remembered the name Hulk Hogan, and they were like, oh yeah, The Rock. And John Cena, in no uncertain terms, just talked about, he still talks about how he loves it, but he never comes back. He used some pretty foul language about it too, and said, don't fuck me around like that. And then I remember there was like a red carpet that The Rock was on for whatever movie coming out. And they asked him about it, and he was very deflective of the comment. And he was clearly very gotten to by it, if you can believe Dwayne being gotten to by something. And
when was the Hall of Fame deal?
The Hall of Fame was 2008.
Okay.
And the comment Cena made was before then, so that must have been 2007, because the whole thing with the Hall of Fame, when he came back, he had that jab directed at John Cena in there. And I remember also the contemporary reports of that, where The Rock was completely different than people were used to him. Like he rolled in, had like, for the Hall of Fame, had his own dressing room and like his own people around him, and don't touch The Rock, don't approach The Rock, and so that whole thing was weird. But for those who have ever seen that, The Rock goes out of the Hall of Fame and does like a fucking, a tight 35 minutes. He has a set that he goes out and does. And
I remember him roasting Santino.
Yeah. And so in classic fashion, though, with all those frustrations the fans may have had when The Rock came out of that Hall of Fame ceremony, it was like God, Jesus came back to earth. They're like, oh, here he is. And so, yeah, it's to kind of meld into where we're going here, Joe, that it seemed at that point in early 2011, there had been a period of time of like rumors swirling that maybe The Rock was considering coming back to wrestling.
Right.
But that night, what was that, February something, 2011?
It was Valentine's Day, 2011.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And as we talk about this in the next match, please, Joe, feel free at any point to rein me in. I have way too much knowledge about the subject, and I'll just fucking go on. So rein me in at any point that you need to. But that was big fucking happenings, man. And the lights went out. Because I don't know if anyone else remembers. I know y'all are younger than me. The other prevailing rumor at the time was that the host of WrestleMania 27 was going to be Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
There was like this, like, the idea that Vince knew who Justin Bieber was really funny to me. But so when they did the lights go out, they said, here's the host of WrestleMania 27. And for the first time in 8 years, If You Smell hit. And that is, to this day, of anything I've seen in my life, concert, sporting event, anything, one of the longest sustained roars I have ever heard. That crowd is just like yelling for like 10 minutes. It's a truly like hair-raising piece of television.
It is, and that sets the stage for the next 2+ years, right? With Cena and
It has that iconic thing where, remember when he first comes out on the stage and the camera comes from his side when he comes out? Yeah.
So he is to host WrestleMania 27. That is the segment, that launches that. And as Alex mentioned earlier, it's very important to note and to stress, he addresses the elephant in the room, which is what, John Cena is a legend, and the way he's being treated now, kind of validates a lot of his career, the adoration for him. But there's that thing seen that Rock says, right, about you went from Stone Cold to The Rock to this guy. And fair or unfair, that was absolutely a prevailing sentiment among people that had lost interest in WWE. Like, it was exactly the note, the call to strike, I should say. And so he hosts WrestleMania 27, which the Oracle of Wrestling attended in order to support The Miz.
Uh-huh.
And
a good friend of mine, Armadillo Dave, was also in attendance.
Indeed. Also support The Miz. And the night after, they do something truly historic, and I'm not sure it will ever be done again. I doubt it can be ever done again. They set the stage for WrestleMania 28, the main event. They shake hands. They have the sign behind them, all the the works, and you have a year to just let this thing build. Like that would be excessive in the boxing game, right? That would be like, geez, a year, once in a lifetime, the billing. But Rock does get a match before that. So we are not talking about that in depth today, but it does make sense to just stop on it. We also have to note that Brian Myers and Joe Hennig, right?
Yep.
Brian Myers and Joe Hennig were the two guys tasked with helping The Rock prepare. And Myers recently found like a check that said training with Dwayne, and it had like something to that effect, something funny. There's a picture. Go on, Rex.
The story Myers has told about the first time he got in the ring.
Yeah.
The story of like they're circling and and then The Rock just goes, "We need some music, don't we?" And then like puts on a boombox and then gets back in. But yeah, they were like, old Kurt Hawkins talks about, they were like, The Rock took to them, and so they were there every step of the way. Like when they were at the Raws the weeks leading into Mania, where they do the big cone over the ring that no one could see what was going on. He said it would be Vince, Shawn, Triple H, The Rock, John Cena, Curtis Axel, and Kurt Hawkins in the ring.
The other thing he said was that Rock would he would do a spot and then he would stop and react to a fake crowd. It's like there'd been an empty gym and he would stand and look at the people, and Hawkins was like, I couldn't, but Rock just said, that's the way I'm going to be pacing the match. Right? I'm just trying to get he would stop after doing something and there's no one else there, and he would look at them like they were going, this is awesome and shit,
That's also the other big story to come from that was because at the time it was so funny, but now he's like a fucking multi-time WWF champion. The Rock came into the gym one day apparently and asked Brian Myers if he had heard of Kilstein. He was like, "Is that Kilstein guy any good? Can you get me some DVDs of him?" So the idea of fucking Dwayne running on the treadmill watching Kevin Steen versus Akira Tozawa from PWG has always really stuck with me.
So I haven't watched the match in years, and I didn't get a chance to watch it before this, so I apologize. But what are our memories of Survivor Series 2011 before we move on? Because it's kind of an infamous deal, because Awesome Truth get the heat for it, right? Hollywood Blondes, Alex, was the comparison you made, perfectly so. But is it the Garden, right? Any memories of that, or you just feel for it for anything my way? Because I don't remember it well at all.
Good Feeling by the Black Eyed Peas is the theme song for that show.
It was a Good Feeling. No, it was Flow Rider, wasn't it? Oh, sometimes
Black Eyed Peas is I Got a Feeling.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So it was Flow Rider. Yeah. My bad. The Awesome Truth had that angle at Hell in a Cell 2011, which is one of the all-time great forgotten angles, where they stormed the Hell in a Cell match and locked everybody in the cells. They beat the shit out of everybody, and then Triple H and everybody had to come out, and JR was on the call, and JR was like, "Somebody get them out!" It was like maybe JR's last great call in the Fed, and they're all locked into the fucking cell or whatever, and JR goes, "Oh my God, they got bolt cutters." And they have to get bolt cutters to cut the lockout so they can save fucking Cena and Punk from getting their ass beat. I like this show a lot. In general, I like Survivor Series 2011. I remember this main event really well. I also remember Punk winning the title in a really good match with Del Rio. and also has one of my all-time favorite laugh out loud moments from WWE where Howard Finkel announces Punk, and I can't remember the context of it, but he obviously Howard's very emotional or whatever for doing it, and the announcers are being total dick
Oh yeah.
about it, but it's not so much the announcers, it's Punk's face when Howard's Howard's out there announcing or whatever, and Punk looks at him and gives him this. I don't know that's always stuck with me, but I actually like the tag match a lot. I think it's the best he's ever looked in terms of any of the matches since 2011. Now that's the best he ever looked. Every other match after that, he just got progressively worse. But he was quite good in that match. Yeah, but I mean,
He busts out the La Mahi straw just to show he's got cred.
Brother,
right.
Brother Contrarian. Look at this. Look at this. What an image.
Amazing.
Time stands still. And supposedly Dwayne said that Hawkins broke Angle's record for highest rock bottom bump, supposedly so.
In
Some
the end
folklore
of
for it.
Survivor Series 2011,
Keep it up, BM.
Cena Attitude gives Rock the FU, right? The Attitude Adjustment at the end of the show.
No, Rock gives Cena the rock bottom.
Is that the We Want Ryder night?
Yeah, that was after the show when The Rock did his promo afterwards. Yeah,
That's
and
right.
then The Rock's like, "Oh yeah, I've been watching Zack Ryder."
All right, Alex, anything you want to add to the Survivor Series talk?
Yeah, Oracle covered it. It was a really fun night, and it was hilarious that R-Truth main evented a pay-per-view in Madison Square Garden. God fucking bless him. I think for the purposes of kind of something we'll touch on here in a minute, you can't tell the story of Rock and Cena without Punk being a character in it. But when he beat Del Rio, the story was at the time that he got back to the curtain and The Rock was there, glistening, getting ready to go out, and our buddy Phil said to him, "Follow that asshole."
Shades of Collision. And of course, this all brings us to April 1st, 2012, once in a lifetime, WrestleMania 28, John Cena versus The Rock. They've got 30 minutes at their disposal. They're in Miami. Let me tell you something, boys. This match, you guys may all disagree with me, but this is just the way I feel. This match, he's now criminally underrated, I feel. Criminally so. I don't see anyone talk about this match. This is so impressive that they had this match. It's 30 minutes long. Sure, obviously there's some bloat that comes with 30 minutes, right? Obviously. But man, this is great. And Rock's had one match in 8 years. I thought this was just honestly an incredible piece of business. And the atmosphere for this, I can't overstate. Wow. This was an experience rewatching it. Oracle, Rock, Cena, WrestleMania 28. This is amazing in my view. What did you think of it?
So let me see the facts first, okay?
Okay, man.
So the fact is, this is the greatest selling match in the history of wrestling. So, this is the match that it's the most successful match in terms of whatever, all that other jazz, all that business, whatever.
Best picture, whatever.
Yeah. As someone who lived through it, the build and hype was insane for it. It was super exciting. I legit would listen to the shit, the ridiculous. I'd be listening to fucking Machine Gun Kelly and shit in Florida the week of. I remember listening. So anytime I hear these damn songs, I associate those songs with this match and this Mania. The concert idea is silly. Luckily, I came in. They edited a certain someone from the video I saw, so I didn't.
Did they leave in
unfortunate reveal?
Did they leave in Machine Gun Kelly giving the definition of an underdog? And
yes, they did. Which was unbelievably cringe, but the concert atmosphere actually added to, I think, the sort of pageantry of the match.
It did, yeah.
The 5 minutes before the bell are Cena's entrance is really good. Rock's entrance is incredible, especially after Florida leaves, where it's just like him and like the announcers don't fucking talk. And it's just like the whole sort of setting gets in. The whole, you're just experiencing the whole scenery. So the first few minutes for the bell are awesome. I like the first like 5 to 8 minutes of this, like the Rock, like them doing like a collar and elbow, like the Rock pulling out La Maestra, shit like that. I think I understand why they went 30 minutes. The crowd was never not going to have heat for this. They could have gone 40 and they would have still had 10 heat. I just wish they'd gone like 17 or 18, to be honest.
I get it, definitely.
It just I couldn't take it. Like I don't hate this match. It's better than the next year's match. The next year's match is just a moves fest, and they should have never done a rematch ever. But I mean, I also understand. I don't know. I think the tagline was just like the tagline sounded nice. They were always going to do a rematch, but the tagline just sounded nice. But I'm a fucking nerd and don't like that the tagline was. I don't know. It's more annoying in hindsight that they did a rematch than it was at the time for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
It also should have been a triple threat with a guy by the name of Phil Brooks too. But anyways,
let it go, champ.
Yeah, but it's okay. He main evented the fake the fake WrestleMania main event this year.
I was about to say we took the Cena when we got there. Yeah,
it was a triple threat, bro. It wasn't fake. I was there. It was real.
Yeah, it was right there before the before the 20-hour intermission. Yeah, it was a good main event. So I don't know. This whole period for me, I just don't like revisiting. Like I get very mad.
It sounds traumatic, yes.
Like it's just like I was a huge Punk mark, so all this stuff just makes me mad even now. But like obviously Rock and Cena was gonna. I mean, I don't even care about that. Like it's just like I just don't care. I just don't care for the match that much. Like it's fine. Like I don't know. They could have gone 18. Mm-hmm. The finish is great though. It's an all-time great finish. I'll give them that. I also think legitimately the worst part of the match, Cole and Lawler are awful on commentary here.
Yeah,
they're an awful pairing, and I don't think Cole could do a better job of making like the moment feel better now. But like 2012 Michael Cole has no ability to make this fucking match feel special at all. And it's honestly a situation where I think if JR was on commentary, I think I would have liked this match like twice as much as I did. I probably wouldn't have loved it, but I think I would have liked it a lot more. So even with all the negativity I'm saying, I actually don't hate this match. I'll say this: it's better than End of an Era, which is one of the worst matches in the history of the company.
All right, hold on. That was unnecessary. All right, we're not going there tonight. All right.
That was a low blow. Dock some points, Bob. Dock some points.
We did that fucking Shane episode for no reason. Bob was like, Test is never good. So, we don't need to throw shit out there. You're just trying to start fights 2:30 into the Rock Grin Grappler. So
true. Agreed.
I'm done. I'm
keep it above the belt.
I've done enough. I've done enough low blows here.
Just CM Punk venting from the Oracle of Wrestling here.
The match is fine. I'm more. The Punk venting's much more stronger in the next match, which
Yeah. Pre-match for this is wild, man. Extended presentation. It's weird. The video package they do with the We Are Young track is very very different, isn't it? It's a lot less like guys fighting and a lot more kind of grand and like it's different.
I actually like the video package the next year like a lot.
It's great, the video package next year. Yeah,
that's like an all-time great video package. It's just the match is not as
where John Cena's divorce was because he lost to The Rock at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
In a sign of things to come, Triple H declares So the talent give picks in the video package, right?
Yeah.
And Triple H declares that Rock and Cena will paint the ultimate masterpiece. And I fucking popped. I was like, God, what a signal that was. That was the way he sold the match. They're going to paint the ultimate masterpiece. Chris Jericho also said it was one of the best matches we've ever seen. So Chris was doing his thing. Last thing on the presentation before I passed the ball here, I apologize. Jerry Lawler is like either unaware of what year it is. I don't know. John Cena is running the ropes. You know, Cena's got the big grin. Like he always did that, right? When the atmosphere was that way, like, oh, they're, they love me tonight, that kind of thing he does. And Jerry Lawler goes, so much to soak up, even for that young man, but he's loving it. And I was like, does Jerry think Cena's like 2 years into his run here or something? Hasn't he been the top guy in the promotion for 7 years? So much to soak up, even for this young man. Like he was his first shot at the big time, like, oh, what a moment. Wild deal. Bobby, which side of this are you on, mate? We're very split here, it seems, on Cena Rock once in a lifetime. What do you think?
I'm a big fan of this one. I don't like the rematch, but I started watching again the 2011 Rumble, and I kind of kept watching because Rock was the guest host of WrestleMania. It was the first WrestleMania I watched. So then once it was like he's going to wrestle next year, I'm like, all right, shit, I'm in. And so I was really excited for this one. I do think it kind of rules. I haven't watched it probably since it first aired, honestly. But yeah, it's a good time, and big fight feel. It feels like a WrestleMania main event, which definitely adds something to it. And yeah, I mean, The Rock looks really good out there for not wrestling in, at this length. I mean, he hadn't wrestled for so long too. Like, you can get in there with Brian Myers, you can get in there with Curtis Axel, but once you're, in there in the bright lights, it's different, man. But yeah, I think this match rules. I think the next one is unfortunate. And I will save getting mad about CM Punk for the next one. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Michael Cole declares this is two icons in their prime.
Yeah.
And I was like, to be fair to Rob, he does a really good job of trying to portray that, right? Like he does his best, I think, in fairness. So his physical presence when he comes out on the stage after the Flow Rider shit's done is unbelievable, dude. He feels like a god when he hits the stage here. Man, Alex, that energy before the bell, it's like, one of those big prize fights, right? Seconds out, round one. It's that feel, and they circle, and it's explosive, man. Oh my God, what an atmosphere. Alex, I know this is sort of a topic you could probably, you have, in fact, talked about for many, many hours. What did you make of it, revisiting it for the Grappler here, brother?
Yeah, I'm going to try to keep my thoughts concise. This is a match that's very special to me, and it's also, I think I would declare that I am one of the, I'll just be generous, one of the 20 most qualified people on the planet to talk about this match with the amount of research I've done on it and everything. So numbers wise, highest buy rate of all time. Some people report 23 having slightly more buys, but this was after HDTV. So these were selling, 1.3 million at $70 a pop. $9 million gate, $9 million gate, $70 million in live event revenue from that night. Like that, I do know, like, if you follow the trending going into it, I think there wasn't cause for concern, but I think a huge part of it was people didn't really think it was going to happen. Like, I think the idea of the year-long build and everything, people were just kind of like, no, like there's no way they're going to pull this off. But when it got to the weekend of, people were fucking rabid. And yes, dude, I'm not here to talk about, like, I mean, people who know me know I've been to a hell of a lot of wrestling shows. I've been to some pretty high level boxing and MMA fights and some high level, boxing, football, basketball. I've never in my life experienced an energy in a crowd like that of Sun Life Stadium, April 1st, 2012, when what you're talking about, they face off, they go back to their corners, and Mike Chioda does the, are you ready? You ready? That I know it sounds fake. I was looking at the ring and my line of vision was vibrating because, like, there was so much noise, like energy, people stomping their feet and stuff. It was just unbelievable. because it was what I just said, people were like, holy shit, this is actually about to happen. And it was unlike kind of anything that was obviously the Rock's intention. It was unlike any build we had seen before. And I mean, I'm not giving the WWF props for much, but it was a huge fucking gamble. At any point, anything could have gone wrong, and they already had all this promotional material ready. And then for those who may not remember, like, they had like this syndicated special that was airing, like a 24/7 type thing leading into it. And like these two guys had cameras following them the whole year and shit. It was one of those things too. I think the safe bet is you'll never see it again, because they were like, all right, it happened the once. We don't need to test fate again. But as far as the actual match goes, I busted out. I texted the group. I was like, fellas, this might be the most contrarian Alex on brand thing ever. So we got the social media, right? The Rock versus Cena got a set that was based around this match. This is before the network. So it was like a documentary about the match, the build and whatnot. And then all of like the television segments, the Survivor Series, and then the Blu-ray here. Blu-ray exclusive WrestleMania 28 film cut. Now, for I think they started at WrestleMania 18 up until I don't know when, maybe 31 or something. I don't think they were I don't think they had 35 millimeter cameras in the crowd, but they did have cinematic cameras with different lenses and depth and different like cameras that weren't meant for television broadcasting. They were very dynamic in different ways. The focus was different and whatnot. And they used those primarily for hype packages. So if you go back and watch like the opening video packages of some WrestleManias, you'll see these things that look like very cinematic shots of wrestlers doing moves or coming to the ring, yada, yada, yada. To my knowledge, they have only, I know they did like on their YouTube page, something called WrestleMania Theater, which was like a melding of their cinematic footage mixed with like the television broadcast. But to my knowledge, they have only twice ever cut entire matches together based off this footage. It was this, and it was Randy Orton versus CM Punk, and that was on the Best of 2011 Blu-ray from WrestleMania 27. So if you watch it, it's not how wrestling is meant to be watched, because it's very fucking artistic and avant-garde and shit like that. But like, there's some really cool shots in there. Also, a deal with like, you know, film cameras or cinematic cameras is those don't necessarily record audio, so they just like splorp over the audio track from the pay-per-view on it, so it looks weird melded together. But it was the first and only time I've watched that, and it was a bit of a hoot for this. So with all that lead in, I'll get to the point of this match is fucking epic. It's The Rock does blow up towards the end during that like exchange of submissions they're doing. When he's doing the sharpshooter, he looks like he's just ready to crumble at any point. There's the point in it where he tears his hamstring also, which he didn't tell anybody about until like a week later, which, you know, Dwayne loves the game, so I respect him for it. Some things to take note of: when Dwayne cinches up that first headlock, he's going a bit hard, squeezing Cena's head. When Cena gets away from that, his face is kind of marked up. So the first chance that Cena gets later in the match, just clotheslines the fuck out of Dwayne, just takes his head off with a clothesline. And there's even a point also when they're doing the boo-yay stuff back and forth, where Cena just does like this fucking Paul Orndorff club to the back of The Rock's neck that I was like, good Lord, man. Cena is incredible in this match. The Rock, it's obviously very impressive what he accomplished here. But Cena, like, the story of this match is he's a game plan, and his game plan is he's gonna zap the wind of The Rock. He's working his midsection. There's literally a part where John Cena's throwing body shots to The Rock.
Gets a bear hug.
He beat me to it, Joey. Yeah, he locks on a bear hug. And there's these flashes. It's a goddamn wrestling match, man. They're like going back and forth. There are flashes of like exchanges. There's a point where The Rock goes for the people's elbow, but Cena goes, he tucks it into an STF, but The Rock reverses out of that, and then that ends up in a 5-knuckle shuffle. So there are like, you know, high spots along the way and whatnot, but they're working a match, man. And my note says here, when The Rock blows up, he goes to one knee on the sharpshooter, the Petey Williams special. So he was studying his DNA tapes going into this. Look, we live now in a time where kicking out of 2 finishers seems rudimentary. At the time here, The Rock kicking out of that second attitude adjustment was like, oh my God. And at that point in the match, it's the crowd's like kind of bewildered. They're not sure what's going to happen. And obviously that was like a, at best, 70-30 Rock crowd. And the finish of this match is amongst the more simplistic and brilliant ever, where John Cena seemingly has the biggest match of his life won, but his ego gets the best of him because this guy's talked so much shit about him that he wants to make him look stupid. So he tries to steal his move from him, gets countered, gets pinned. And one of the interesting things I will say is that for the negativity talk of the commentary here, I think this is the singular best call of Michael Cole's career when Dwayne wins the match. And he just declares, The Rock has beaten John Cena. Because Michael Cole, especially now, it always seems like this desperation to like coin a phrase or, have some quip. Like, I hate when he said the miracle on Bourbon Street when Bryan won at 30. That seemed like just so silly and forced. Because most things Michael Cole says seem silly and forced. I'm sorry, I don't subscribe to him being the best announcer ever. But with this, it was delivered with like the call of, when Tyson wasn't getting up from Buster Douglas. Like, it was delivered so emphatically and like a real sports call that I really, really like that. But I'm not going to disagree with anything else y'all said throughout the match. Like, Lawler, just someone should have held down his cough button the whole time here. But an incredible piece of business, a match I have a very strong sentimental attachment for, as I've like called out why here. I think it has already become a victim of the way the WWE perpetuates their history, that everything is the biggest thing ever. And, the way, like we were just talking about earlier, Jesus Christ, there are people that legitimately think that like Triple H and Steve Austin were on the same level of superstardom just because they were both like in the Attitude Era. And I don't think people understand enough how big of a star The Rock was. And this is coming from me, who says like Steve Austin was always bigger than him, because the way they present their history is it's the brand, pal. And this match it's one of the few things myself and old Davey Meltzer will agree upon. He will consistently call out that this is the most profitable match in the history of wrestling, and it's not even close. Like, by any real true metric, you would, it wasn't fucking. They weren't closing down the sweet shops like they were for Giant Haystacks and Big Daddy, but like they had a goal and achieved it. And especially the biggest thing is with the way the industry's changed so much, we now live in a system where there cannot be a match like this again.
No,
there cannot be a match to this.
And this was close to that point where it would never go back to that too. Very close, couple years.
Yeah, and this is what Vince wanted to launch the WWE Network. He wanted this match to launch that, and the programmers or whatever. I don't know how fucking streaming works, but they were like,
there were ads that came out on television to promote.
Yeah,
it, if you remember, Alex.
I guess someone finally had to be like, Vince, that's not going to work, dude. Which of course worked out better because 1.3 million times 70 is better than a 7-day free subscription. They'll stick around anyway. All right, biggest match of all time. But something that doesn't need to be lost in that, a great, great pro wrestling match that, maybe not would have translated necessarily if it was the main event of a May pay-per-view at the Norfolk Scope or, the Tacoma Dome or some shit. But as a stadium main event with the build it had, this thing lives in an era of its own.
Indeed. Beautifully said. By the way, you sent this to me earlier, Alex. We should put this on the screen here.
Oh, yes. Arguably the crown jewel of my collection. So that is from WrestleMania 28. You can see at the bottom, they were selling those for $10, and they were numbered to 1,000. And we got in the door and saw a couple there and bought those. I have seen one of those online one time in my life, and it was going for $450. So, if I ever need to buy groceries for a week, maybe I can pawn that off for a bit of change. But I love that poster.
you mentioned that AA near fall. You know, when he rolls through on the crossbody.
Mm-hmm.
It's the point you made about 2 kickouts, but it's also it is placed like a finish. It absolutely feels like the finish. Like
Yeah.
even watching it, knowing it's not the finish, you still kind of buy it in a weird way because
Yeah.
you're like, it's strange, right? How that works. Like, even though you know that he's not winning it, and just see, I have to say, John Cena. I think people really forget what he was capable of in terms of like the nuance to his game. I really think that is because look, we've got to be honest, sometimes he would wear those moments in a very outward fashion. I think his response to Rock kicking out there is incredible, where it's like if you listen closely, he says to Kyoto, I know we're in Miami, but like as though it's like a Homer decision, you know? Like
Yeah.
he's in pure denial, and that is what sets the stage for what he's about to do, where he acts out of character because he's down himself, right? How great is he before the bell when he has the like, you asked for this, you ready? Like you sure
it's
about
so
this?
fucking good, dude.
He is unbelievable on this, dude. Like this is such a great John Cena performance. I can't put over enough how brilliant he is in this match. Brilliant performance.
He's at no point is he like overtly heel, but like
No.
there's a part where the Rock's kind of getting the better of him, so he slides out of the ring to regroup himself, and then he even does the thing where he slams the Rock on the announce table on his ribs to kind of like, so he's not like overtly nefarious, but he's like, you can from the character perspective, he's really like dialed in, like he has to win this. It's yeah, I think it's I do want to call out just in closing. I think a lot of people willfully ignore what a success this was and how good this match was, because at the time there was a lot of people that were mad that this got a year of build. You know, I'm talking about the hardcores and whatnot, and the people that would to this day perpetuate history on Twitter and the likes. I think a lot of people were served a big plate of humble pie and refused to eat it, excuse me, and to this day kind of hold some resentment towards this match because also what came in the fallout and whatnot.
Right.
Yeah. But this show in general is just such a fucking catalyst, man. This is where Brian's launching pad happened when the fucking Sheamus thing backfired and Punk's frustrations start here, and yeah, this unbelievable night.
Randy Orton and Kane in the match of the night. Yeah, I remember. It was good.
Oh, brother. Kane winning. As I've said, you've never seen unintentional comedy at its finest until you've seen Kane's entrance in broad daylight.
Yeah. Fair. Kane won.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Orton,
he did the top rope choke slam, right?
Yeah, Orton took a choke slam off the top rope.
WrestleMania, brother. Our guy for hard sends a healthy super chat here saying, Happy JC Jane Day, fellas. Indeed, we were live on the air. Oracle gave like a live reaction while talking about The Rock. Very, very cool. Appreciate it, brother. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good morning.
Morning.
Appreciate it. I mean, I'm looking, it's bright here, so it's definitely bright for hard.
Just turned morning here, midnight.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be a long boy. Thanks again to Fahad. How am I sounding now, boys? Is it okay?
You good, man?
Good. Wonderful. Bobby, any tips for people that maybe filed in late as to how they can show some support for the program?
Yeah, you go ahead and smash that like button. Odd numbers. You know, if you've done it before, you could do it again, but you might have to do it the first time. You know, 1, 3, 5 onward.
If you've done it before, you can do it again was amazing. I know that you meant like push the button twice, but it came off like you meant like you believe in yourself. You can hit that like button.
Exactly. It's both, you know?
It's both. It's both. So, of course, this gets a little more complicated now. Raw 1000, they do the famous angle with Punk in which he sells the clothesline like it was a gunshot, you know, and I think people do remember, to be fair, the video package before this Punk match, right, with the champion deal and all that with Punk. I think people remember that very fondly. For a generation of fans, that's significant. CM Punk, The Rock, Royal Rumble, January 27, 2013. Direct follow-up here, right? I mean, it's 8 months later, but it's the next match for Rock. Fascinating pre-match promo from Rock here. Did you guys catch this?
Yeah, where he's just doing Dusty Rhodes. He's
doing Dusty, and like he clearly had just watched Dusty because he's emphasizing the reaching out thing. Like he's saying it even. I'm reaching out. I know he's inspired like his mum's I don't know what the time was. This his mum had just been diagnosed with cancer, and that's what he
I
was
believe so.
referencing.
Yeah.
Okay. So like obviously there's real, it's written in there. Oh, naturally I laugh when he says $7 because of course I do. But there's obviously a real inspiration for it, but it does come off like he's literally just doing like a dusty impression. It's very strange, isn't it? Very odd.
I don't think it was the go home, but I went to one of the Raws that they did the big angle where leading into this where Rock and Punk had like the bench clearing brawl where like people had to come out and separate them. And I do remember the crowd really, really biting on it. So there was like meat on the bone. There was anticipation. It's just sadly, I think going into this, there was so much just doom and gloom with people expecting the outcome.
Yeah, and I think this one is... I don't see this as like some great disaster, to be completely honest.
Good match.
I like the match, and I think the booking is definitely flawed. I wouldn't have gone the way they went. But I do think I don't agree at all with so on cage match. This and the chamber match have like the same rating basically, and I think that is like white place. Dwayne really blows up in the chamber. Like he can't do anything in the chamber match for most of it. And there's stuff to like here, Bobby. I sense there is a great deal of resentment. You seem to be very passionate about this earlier. What do you want to say about it, mate? Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when it was announced, it was like, well, kind of feels like how that's going, but maybe not. We'll see. It's an all-time long title reign. Punk's been doing great work. He's got the Shield in his corner now, and then you're going through the pay-per-view, and Cena wins the Rumble, and it's like, well, and then.
Bobby, who would you have had win that Rumble?
Shit, I don't even remember. I don't even remember who was in it. I just remember Cena won. Oh, I mean,
Ryback, right, Bob? Ryback.
Yeah, God.
Ziggler?
No, they'd already tried it a million times with him by then. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just, you get to this match, and it's like, oh, cool, it's The Rock and CM Punk. That's a pairing that I would enjoy watching, but, like, it's so telegraphed what they're going to do, and, like, it was telegraphed going into it, too, and it always kind of felt like, Punk got a Raw deal here, even though he probably didn't, like, but it's always how it felt, and it took me until he returned to the company and they put this match back on YouTube to finally watch it again and get over it. So I was mad about this match for 10 years.
I didn't know you were that big of a Punk guy, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah, I was pissed, man, because it was like, well, and then, as time goes on, too, like, with the benefit of hindsight, it actually ages worse because, like, that was their plan for WrestleMania for the next few years, just, like, put it on, the guy who's not there. And granted, a lot of times it was a guy that I enjoyed, so I didn't have a problem with it. But, again, with all the hindsight, like,
yeah,
wasn't the right call. And, the Punk stuff came out. Well, no, that was, like, the fall of 2014 with the interview with Colt Cabana and all that. But, like, it never sat right with me. And it's a good match. I was mad about it for a long time.
I have to say, there's been some really like aggressive things said on these shows. I think the most damning criticism ever is Bob saying it just didn't sit right with me. Like, just because that means way more than us like saying, oh, the guy's forearms were shitty. Right? Bob, it didn't sit right with him. Like, he just didn't. It was wrong.
Yeah, and then, like, the next year they did the same thing with Batista to an extent. Like, he won the Rumble, and it's just like they were doing that constantly. And this is kind of the first like step to doing it, and it ends up being a really shitty time for like the rest of the decade.
Well, I think it's the perfect chance to loop back around. Everything we said about the first match and how successful it was is true. The problem with that is it told Vince, these full-time guys, they ain't shit, dude. It's just Cena. Like, you need to go back in time to get to that sort of number, that sort of interest. That it did too well. It snake bit everything after that because Vince didn't believe in the guys that were on TV every week. Yeah. Okay. I meant a lot to you, Bobby. I'm proud of you for just expressing yourself there, man. I could tell it meant a lot. You had to get it off your chest and all these years later. Yeah, it didn't sit right with you, did it? Well, it didn't sit right.
No, but, now with the benefit, both guys are back in relatively good graces with the company. It's a good match. Like, it rules. I enjoyed watching it again today. I enjoyed watching it, because when Punk came back, they uploaded like all of his big matches to YouTube. So I was going through them, that week, and it's like, oh, this match rules. I remember hating it. The finish sucks. Like, he should have just won, but like, they have the lights go out and the Shield comes out, and like it's clear they're out there, and then Vince comes out and he's like, oh, you're gonna get stripped now, and then Rock's like, oh, just restart the match, which whatever. But the match itself is good. Punk is on a roll for a lot of this time. 2013, generally goes Rock, Taker, Brock, the Jericho matches in there. Just a really good stretch for him. It kind of sucks how it went, but I'm not going to get mad about that again.
Good.
Yeah, this match itself, very good. Very good stuff. Rock goes to a shitty sharpshooter a couple too many times, but besides that, like, there's a lot of good here. Punk is trying to kind of aggravate the internal injuries because on the go home they did the triple power bomb and Rock was like coughing up blood and stuff, so they're calling back to that. And then he lands on his knee, which is why he missed. He didn't miss Survivor Series, or he was out a few weeks series because they were going to do like Team Punk against Team Foley, and then it ended up being triple threat instead because Punk got cleared. But yeah, so he lands on the knee, and then Rock gets these opportunities, and like it's good, it's well laid out, it's well worked. Just again, the finish is bad, and I hated the match for 10 years. So
yeah, fair. It is a great CM Punk performance. It really is a brilliant CM Punk performance. And the way when he's in control, the way he steers the ship while not having Rock like bump around, like he makes it very easy for Rock. They get through it very smoothly. I also love the way him injuring his knee while in control like opens the door for Rock, which was Punk's way. Very Brit of him. That was Punk's way of just adding some logic to why the old guy can come back and beat the champ, right? Like he hurts his knee on his own move. I think that was there's some really nice touches. I think The Rock works hard. He does get really blown up. He's really good at the start, and then he has to be very selective. I like this match, the Oracle of Wrestling. I sense there is a great deal of trauma surrounding it for you. What did you think of it?
Yeah, so at the time, this was like one of those like moments in my life where I was embarrassed to be a person because I was so enraged. Because like everybody, like I was aware Rock was winning, but the way that it was done was so infuriating for me at the time that like I was just very upset and angry, like a petulant child about it, and like it was very stupid. But like the finish is irredeemable in my like the Rock should have just won clean. It's like whatever, which is fine. Like whatever, I get it. The Rock's bigger star, who cares? Like. But I mean, having like the bullshit finish with like the Shield and the restart, and I think everybody looked worse.
Yeah,
in this finish, I think The Rock looked worse. I think Punk looked worse. I think it's one of the outside of like obviously like deranged shit. Let me be clear. Yeah. We've seen people say things on social media before that are insane. It's one of the worst booking decisions WWE's ever done, and like. Within like a match, just
within a match,
like it's like I don't understand why they had to do all that. I guess I don't know. Maybe Punk politic to get a visual pinfall over Rock or something.
Maybe
that sounds like something he would do, but like it just the match is really good. I like this match. Alex is gonna be furious. I think this match is better than the Cena match, like before the finish. I think. I think Punk does a tremendous job. Punk is awesome in this. I really did like the the leg being hurt, and the knee being hurt, opening up for the Rock be on offense. The spot with the rock bottom is fucking insane, where the table collapses, and Dwayne's like, "Nope, we're still doing it." So Punk has to take a fucking full force rock bottom, like. Tired ass Dwayne The Rock Johnson fucking splats him on the fucking floor.
Which had to be so much worse than going through the table.
Way worse. And the look on Punk's face is of clear, like, unadulterated agony. Like, he's in so much pain after that rock bottom. After the Shield come out, JBL is unbearable on commentary after he goes, Michael Cole's, Stooge.
He rules.
Funny,
I'm
but also
sorry.
terrible. Like,
I can't help it. He pops me too much, dude. Fuck.
I was laughing, but it's still like it's objectively bad commentary.
Oh yeah.
But like, it's still funny as shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, the finish is all time bad within like match booking, in my opinion, in the Fed. The Rock should just beat him, you know. Like, and I will say the moment when like the fans realize Rock wins the title's cool, fucking Phoenix goes nuts.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's losing their fucking minds, you know, from the hard cam when he hits the elbow and you know, gets the win, gets the title. But yeah, another traumatic one. This I was a little harder on the Cena match, but this is far more traumatic than the Cena match. The Cena match was something I looked forward to. I was just like frustrated with it being 30 minutes at the time, and still
Yeah.
am. This one was just like, you know, this was like I had a toddler episode, you know, about this one. This was bad stuff, you know.
Yeah. I get it. How crazy is that deal when Punk does his dive and he just sails past Rock and like smashes into the barricade?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the look on his face, when
Mad
Rock
as hell.
catch him was like,
Mad. Yeah.
motherfucker didn't catch me, fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Dwayne's
There's
never
a-
caught a dive in his life. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing there.
Rare good commentary from Lawler when like Dwayne is blatantly talking and he covers for him. Did you get that where he goes, even when he's, you know, getting beat up, Rock's talking trash? I was like, that was, you know, he still occasionally would do things of use. Outside of going, over and over again. Alex, I sense this is far less traumatic for you. Royal Rumble 2013.
Yeah,
Rock, Punk, brother, go for it.
I remember rolling my eyes, but you know, is what it is. I think these are things that have been confirmed by the man himself. Man, Punk at the end of this run, he was skinny and pale and looking. And that was the last. I think, truthfully, that was the last guy that really felt a sense of like the company's on my back with his title run. Well, that actually had to like, you know, work. I mean, Cody's got 5 shows this year, but you know, it's
Cody, I guess before he won the strap was the closest, right?
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
when
yeah,
they were
definitely.
still, yeah.
But Punk being Punk, and it's what makes Punk Punk, and it's what makes him have the fan base that he does, is I think put like hyper unrealistic expectations upon his own shoulders. When he's introduced as the champion and he holds the belt up high, someone behind him proudly holds up a Colt Cabana sign, which is aged hilariously. I was surprised that this is like immediate Gaga. We went from that match with Cena where it's like just like a good main event pro wrestling match to like they're immediately brawling outside the ring, like in this. And there's a good part though where Heyman tries to blindside the Rock and the Rock completely no-sells it and turns around and, you know, say what you will about Heyman and you would be right, but his like overacting is always really funny. Oracle called out the table breaking, which I dubbed the Rock Royal Rumble curse, because if y'all remember in his match with Foley at 99, the exact same thing happened.
Yep.
They were on the edge and the table gave out that way. Punk gets a lot, and I do love that not only like that Punk has like the knee thing, but I love that Dwayne doesn't shy away from immediately just going for it, like exploiting that. I think that's a nice touch. There's a pretty sick sequence where Punk goes for the GTS, Dwayne counters it into the sharpshooter, and Punk counters that into the Anaconda Vice. I thought that was really good. At that point, Dwayne's like, give me a minute. I'm tired. Execution-wise, this could be one of the best Rock sharpshooters ever, because the Rock sharpshooters always looked bowling shoe ugly, as Jim Ross would say, and here he's got it cinched up pretty good. Yeah, when we get to the finish, though, it is beyond comedy that the lights go out as the Rock is doing the twirl in the people's elbow, and then it is funny too that one of the biggest movie stars in the world takes a table bump and there's no footage of it because they have to do this angle where the lights are out. They couldn't just like make like a bang noise and then he wakes up with a chair next to his head or something. CM Punk, whilst the lights are out, does a marvelous hard cam shuffle because he's facing that way he's facing opposite hard cam, and while he's out, he goes a complete 180 so he can do the shot where he sits up laughing and the hard cam can zoom in on his face. So, not that I think the all-time hard cam shuffle is either big. There was a tag match on Raw where Big Cass did like a fucking one of the monsters in The Descent. He crawled on all fours and circled around to make sure he was facing the hard cam. Or there was when Shayna Baszler wrestled Kairi Sane, because it was the coolest looking one ever. She got her in that rear naked choke and realized she was facing the wrong way, so just swung her around in 180 to face the hard cam. This is what we teach at a warehouse, Joe. Lights come back on. I did forget until this point in my life that the introduction of the Shield was that he was that they were like a group of mercenaries that worked for Punk.
Mm-hmm.
And they abandoned that after this show, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So as we move into the finish here, a couple things I want to call out. This new era of the WWE we're in, it's not one that I personally, my heart and soul is into. This idea of the amount of money people are paying for tickets is not one that I necessarily support. But I will say that I am glad we have priced out the super fans that had gimmicks that used to buy opposite hard cam seats.
He drove me nuts too. Yeah.
And there's a couple of them that almost ruined this match for me. So
there's one on the other side that drove me nuts, which one I was referencing, which is the Brock Lesnar guy.
Oh, yeah.
They go near him and he's like, I'm on camera. I must do as many wild faces. It's very bad. Very bad.
I'm not opposed to the idea of the super fan, but when there was that era there in the early 2010s where this group of guys convinced themselves they were part of the show and had to have these front row seats every time. So be more, y'all know Vladimir. Just do it for the love of the game. Don't do it. Get yourself over.
Fucking A.
All right. So finish comes and do have to call out because Dwayne, for what Dwayne being Dwayne, he's still, Joe, did you catch it? He hits the people's elbow before he pins Punk.
Thank you. Yeah.
Tells him thank you. So
hits him with the Lexi all caps and fucking wins the strap.
And Punk, to his credit, sells the people's elbow like he got fucking shot in the chest. And then JBL I caught on commentary who's celebrating this title victory and talking about what a great match it was and what a great pay-per-view it was. He says, "This is what we do." and backstage, there's a young Paul Levesque stroking the Fu Manchu saying, "What we do, huh? I like that." Look, the twice in a lifetime match I actively dislike, and this led to it. And the Elimination Chamber match I don't remember being good. No. This is a good match. It's a good match, and it's a great Punk performance.
Yeah.
And just to kind of my thoughts on Bobby said that it kind of feels like Punk got a raw deal, even though he didn't. I've always thought that backstage at this show, no one went up to Punk and said thank you or we're proud of what you did. I have no evidence of this. I have no proof of this. I've always felt that's a big part of the story because knowing him, if Vince and Triple H and a group of them went up to him backstage at the show and said, "Hey, we're really proud of what you did. We appreciate it." I think who knows how different history would be. I just feel like his title reign ended, even though it was in a match against the fucking Rock. It still felt like it ended kind of unceremoniously because it felt like they really could have done something with it. And so,
well, he spends the whole reign a supporting character to Cena, and ultimately his reign proves to be
part of it. Yeah,
it proves to be a device in Cena's story because Cena wins the Rumble before this, and it's clear what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know the answer because I have no interest in being on Vince McMahon's side of anything, but I do get when a match does that well, there's just the immediate thing is the return match in it. It's not. Maybe a triple threat was the way. Maybe.
Yeah, because I mean, to me, it always seemed pretty apparent that somehow it was going to end with Cena getting his hand raised. But that's what made the 28 match so surprising is everyone thought Cena was going to win.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's obviously the legacy and like the history, like the fallout surrounding this match, kind of overshadows the fact that it is, again, just to repeat myself, it's a good match and it's a great Punk performance.
Yeah. I don't think that's true. The final boss. The final boss in the chat said the rematch flopped on pay. Didn't it do like 1 point? It did over 1 million again. Have a look. I could be wrong. I may be making that up.
You're talking about Punk Cena or WrestleMania 29?
WrestleMania 29. I think it did over 1 million again. I could have made that up.
It may have. I do remember the numbers were, yeah, it broke 1 million. It didn't get nearly as high, and
what did it? 1.1 or something.
1.1, and
pretty good, man.
No, it is. There was something about it that didn't perform to where they were expecting, and it had something to do. All I remember the story at the time was you couldn't blame Brock and Triple H for being the reason that it didn't draw.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the odds. I mean, I think they shouldn't have done it again anyway because the match sucked, didn't it? Ultimately, it was it was a waste of. It was a waste of. It was honestly, it ruined some of the magic to that first match, I think. But nonetheless, yeah, I'm not sure. Some debate in the chat about it. I'm not sure if there was maybe it was the gate. I don't know. We have to research it more. Obviously, the match we should have done to close the show out was last year's tag match. If you have any beef with that not happening, look no further than myself. I was not doing it. I refused.
I was going to say, I think literally the first bit of dialogue that came from this was Joe saying we're not doing that tag match.
Yeah.
I understand it was good and stuff, and people have told me it was good.
I don't know if I could see Samantha Irvin do another.
Everyone's told me the match was good. One day maybe I'll find out. I watched it live and found it to be deeply distressing. I have to say, deeply distressing. So
the biggest thing I have retained from that match is that is the last time. It was the first time, excuse me, in literal decades that The Rock did not come out last. And that I remember watching it going, holy shit, Roman's getting the final entrance. So that, that was
who won that match.
Well, there you go. That's the whole point.
Okay, I just looked at it here. So on some of the numbers it says it was down like 200K. The gross was the best ever at that point. It was $72 million. I don't know, man. It's hard to figure out what was the draw at that point, I suppose. Nonetheless, before we get to that, Jumanji Hunter sent this. He's been a member for 9 months. Very much appreciate that. Another early LNG Gold member, no doubt. Says, what would have the Rock Brock WrestleMania 30 match look like? Also need more Bob, Oracle, Alex on Gold. Building new stars instead of relying on established ones. Booking fee, dude. Expensive, you know? Yeah, I absolutely agree. We do need more Bob, Oracle, and Alex, but it's a matter of them wanting to watch GCW or TNA or something. We'll figure it out. Definitely, Alex and I have talked for a long time about doing Greatest Royal Rumble. We'll probably do that at some point. And we also want to do Wrestling Summit, those shows, right, Alex? Those like crossover shows we should do probably. So
yeah, we talked about doing those. I'm always prodding Joe with some ideas. It's their core audience though wants to know what Del Ospreay's doing, so that's not really my bag.
And we should know we've sort of broadly agreed to doing that SmackDown you were at, that Dango and Phil wrestle on.
Oh yeah, we're gonna couple it with the main event because Wade Barrett and R-Truth have like a work rate match that Oracle I think would fucking piss his pants over.
The Rock Brock Mania match would look like shit, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah,
it would have been bad. I think.
Yeah,
do you think they would have had a finish? I guess Brock at that point wasn't as crazy, right? Because he'd like lost to Triple H and stuff.
Dude, imagine Brock pulling guard and putting Dwayne in the Kimura and Dwayne, like, you know, doing that shit where he holds himself from tapping. Listen, we can retrospectively look back on what WrestleMania 30 should have been all we want, but it turned out the way it did, and it was fucking perfect.
Agreed. Thank you for being a member, bro. Appreciate you. Gonna try my best to get the vets on. I think they know. Open door as always, right, boys? You know that, right? There's always a
Oh,
spare
yeah.
seat for you if you want on any of those shows. Next time I tweet out, TNA Under Siege Grin, I'm sure Alex will DM me immediately.
Just hashtag I believe.
Dude, it's over, man. The fucking dynasty is no more.
Man, a guy who could have been in a position to be like, no. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
Game's dead.
Nonetheless, we should talk about the final boss. I don't think we need to go into in depth, to be honest, because we actually covered like a lot of this, and it's very, But he, of course, returns infamously following Cody's Royal Rumble win, sparks the hashtag We Want Cody, and stunningly goes with it and becomes a hit, which it has to be said, part of the reason that press conference thing was so wild, we did not believe for a second Rock would willingly be a heel, right?
Mhm.
Correct.
And I think he definitely cemented his legacy as a performer with how he was able to show a new side of himself as the final boss, where he was kind of scary. He had this sinister tone, right? Like, I never forget the scene where he did the concert and then suddenly he does the 2 camera to Mama Rhodes. It was like, well, the character of the final boss is like a deeply unwell guy. Like, he's a really insane guy. And Rock showed, by hook or by crook, that required a certain amount of self-awareness, right? Rock kind of embraced the way people perceived him there. It's part of why I find The Rock so interesting is I think you can easily talk yourself into like, he has no self-awareness, he's insane. I agree with the latter. I don't know if you can say he has no self-awareness based on the final boss character. The final boss character was him being like, oh, you think I run this shit and I'm like a PR freak? Because remember, he would have lines about like his Instagram and shit. Like, it was fascinating, dude. It's some of the best TV of the decade so far. He carried that WrestleMania build, man. Him and Cody carried the WrestleMania build.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of the shout out to his Moana line that he said like in a very deeply disturbing manner was fantastic. But dude, it of course became a punchline amongst our group. But the idea of him unveiling this belt for himself and then calling himself the champion, and I mean this sincerely, the segment with him and Cody the night after WrestleMania 40 when Cody won the belt was like some of the better work Dwayne's ever done. This teetering on completely psychotic like movie star that has like completely short circuited because the fans have turned on him and whatnot. And man, there was so much potential in that, but then Dwayne's real brain got in the way and whatnot. And it's now as good a time as any. What happened with Black Adam broke his brain, and he has not been the same person since then. Publicly, at least. I don't know what the fuck Dwayne's like in real life. He seems like a cool guy. I'd drink some Mana with him. But as far as like his publicly facing persona and what it appears in like how many times he's consistently had to regroup to like curry up favor with the public again and whatnot, it really seems like that Black Adam thing fucking broke his brain.
I agree, and I do think we just celebrated the final boss, and we all agree it was incredible. As much as I have fun with what he did this most recent cycle, the insanity of what followed was ridiculous. Like showing up at Bad Blood for whatever the fuck that was such a huge mistake. He should have just stayed out of the picture completely.
That was the turning point for the because I mean, not to break it down too much, but like Raw's been okay lately. Like Raw's mostly watchable, but like I think WWF has gotten worse since Bad Blood. Like Bad Blood was like the turning point for me. Like they've gotten progressively worse. Like,
it also doesn't help or hurt that show was opened by one of the top 50 WWF matches of all time and something they're not going to do again anytime soon.
True.
It's very look. Let's be honest. People would say otherwise, and I'm sure that there's people involved in the crowd that will swear otherwise. It's very obvious the Bloodline Civil War thing was supposed to include him. It's very obvious. It's not. You don't have to be Bruce Pritchard to figure out. They did not do a whole fucking 8-month arc to blow off with just Roman and Solo. It was clearly supposed to involve The Rock. The idea was the idea was clear that The Rock was the man pulling the strings. It was very obvious that way, and it just that wasn't what happened. And once the Netflix thing, occurred, it was like, okay, he's not making Mania. And then he got tempted in. He claims for tickets, so whatever the fuck it was that got him to do the Elimination Chamber thing, which in hindsight was a huge mistake because clearly the idea was that Cena was going to turn heel at WrestleMania. Like, very obviously, that was what it was going to be, right? Like, they were going to have a babyface build and Cena was going to turn heel at WrestleMania. It's no doubt about it to me. That's what it was going to be. And the Rock thing, changed everything. Now, I will say this. I think some people that make Rock like the lead villain and the chief problem of all these things, I think are fucking insane also. Because, like, it ain't The Rock's fault. People attach The Rock to things that he doesn't even know exist, dude, let alone book them wrong. Like, he ain't watching this shit like that, dude. Like, if you don't like, say, like LA Knight, like, say you're frustrated with LA Knight's booking, The Rock has no fucking idea what LA Knight's booking looks like, man. Like, he has no idea.
All that shit fell apart in the fall after Bad Blood and the Netflix Spear and all that shit and weird stuff. A guy by the name of Paul could have done a lot better than,
Right, and that's the same thing with the Cena thing.
Paul.
Rock turning Cena, doing that early, obviously fuck things, but they also could have done a better job with what they had because that was a great angle. Like,
right. Yeah.
The truth is in the middle on this, and I'm not trying to defend Rock because I really don't give a fuck, but like,
and also
the idea that they did a great angle at Elimination Chamber, dude.
I think you're kind of underselling it. It's like one of the better angles the WWF's ever done.
It's because it was not exactly as they had mapped out. People act like obviously it was stupid to do that without thinking you're going to be involved in the rest of it. But there was still a lot given to them with that angle. It was like an incredible angle, It
was in the moment. It was great, and then they did that fucking that. Dude, there's nothing dumber in pro wrestling, and this is equal hating AEW and WWE post-show press conferences. It's fucking fake shit. Unless you're Tony Storm, none of these fuckers know how to do this stuff, man. So the fact that like after that the Rock came out and was like, he had his like glass and was like talking about like what we just did, and
awful,
yeah, terrible. But like in the moment, and the Rock and the promo the few days before where he talked about wanting Cody's soul, that again, it was until this recent happening that the Rock did such a good job of like being the Rock in public, but then when he was on WWE, kind of like with this really weird like psychotic edge to him. But then when he goes to these post-show press conferences and does all this shit, and then obviously WrestleMania, I think it's because I don't care that much anymore about like the actual finished product that I feel more comfortable in saying, well, it was at least funny. But it's he's a strange cat, it seems. But I'm on the boat with you, Joe, of saying like he gets blamed and has been blamed recently for a lot of shit that's not his fault at all.
And we don't know the truth, right? I know Sean confirmed there was truth to like they wanted him to help ticket sales for Nation Chamber. I apologize. That's not the case. Someone in the chat can tell me I'm wrong. I apologize. I'm pretty sure he said there was some legitimacy to that. We don't know whose finish that was at WrestleMania. If The Rock said, I'm not going to be there, but Travis Scott should be the finish, then he did some serious damage to that piece of business. We don't know that, though. I don't fucking know. My presumption is he had something to do with it. It doesn't seem like something that Triple Bull would have pulled out of his back pocket. So I don't know, right? But
it's even funnier now that it's not even going to be Travis Scott and Cena against Cody Rhodes and like Tugboat.
We do have to be real. Like, I agree that I don't think Triple H books fish here, but we have to be realistic about some of the people involved in that decision process now. With like, the executives and how corporate and how glossy everything is. You don't know, right? It's like I have no idea how it works anymore. No clue. Not sure. Now, nonetheless, Mel also said it was Cena's idea to turn. See, that's what I'm saying. It's like there's so much conflicting reporting, right? And the reality is no one knows what the fuck The Rock's doing because people in creative don't know what he's doing. And if you still don't believe that's the case, you are insane. Like, if you still think there's a master plan and they're working together, you're off the rails, dude. Like, he clearly shows up when he wants. It made this very apparent to you. As a fan of The Rock, as a wrestler, I would like for him to avoid making a habit of this because I think it's actually going to do like severe damage to the way people remember him, and I think it already has on some level. But I do find it quite funny. So challenging. Last question before we wrap up, with Rock and talk about his legacy and such. Does The Rock ever wrestle again? Great question.
It's if they're gonna do it, it almost has to be WrestleMania next year, and it has to be Roman or Cody, because you're kind of running out of time for those too.
I don't think he wrestles again.
I don't think so either.
I have never had any interest in that Roman Reigns match for the 5 years people have been booking it. I have never found that interesting, and I do acknowledge my tribal chief, but like
5 years is crazy, bro. We're at like 10 now.
But it's the lasting image of those two. Well, it's not, because they had The Rock with the belt that he stole from Muhammad Ali's widow and the WWE title at WrestleMania last year. But the lasting image of Roman Reigns and The Rock should always be him looking very bewildered and confused while holding his hand up at WrestleMania 15, or Royal Rumble 15, excuse me.
Amazing.
Cody's a really good smoke and mirrors guy, no pun intended. I think they could figure something out to do, but
I don't. But we'll see. Hopefully we find out. I'd like to see him back at some point. He was great on TV last year,
Oh yeah, I want him back. It's just Well, I have my own question before we go to the closing, Joe.
Yes, mate.
Best Rock movie.
This is tough for me. For you, it's Pain. It's easily Pain and Gain, right?
Pain and Gain, I think, legitimately is a modern masterpiece.
Carry on.
I think it's a masterpiece. I think it's Michael Bay's magnum opus, to steal a phrase from earlier in the show. Southland Tales is a very fascinating movie from The Rock's performance perspective, because it was when he was in that phase of like trying things, and so you will never see The Rock make a movie like that again. Rundown's fun, and he's really funny in Get Smart with Steve Carell.
Yes, he is. Right.
And
my highest rated Dwayne films. So look at this here.
I'm going to be there opening weekend for The Smashing Machine, so we'll see.
My highest rated film starring The Rock is Beyond the Mat. I have like 20 logged. What do I have here? I'm looking here. Flying with My Family is a hilarious shout. I have Straight Out of Dudleyville, a solid 3 stars, if that helps. I'd say Walking Tall. I would say Walking Tall. Okay. There we go, folks. What an adventure. Right, let's do some legacy. And let's announce next month's Grappler. There is not a selection this month. I don't know how many of you know this. I know Alex does. We have a wrestler picked ready for next month, which we will announce here momentarily. The Oracle of Wrestling. Any closing for? We've talked so much, Dwayne. So anything else you want to add, mate, before we move on to June?
No. He's simply put, he's one of the, as I go into a spiel, he's one of the greatest pro wrestlers of all time, unquestionably. One of the more unique all-time greats, as his characters have changed and his motivations or lack thereof or whatever the fuck have changed, because he's such a confusing person and personality. He's become such a unique entity in the history of wrestling, particularly in recent history. Just simply one of the best ever, all around as a star performer. And again, to reiterate one last time, very underrated worker, especially in the early 2000s.
I agree completely. Bobby, anything you'd like to add?
I mean, he transcends wrestling, and there's not a ton of guys that have done that, and he's done it probably more and to a bigger degree than anyone, including, Hogan or whoever you want to say, became a mainstream star. I think he is, because he was the biggest movie star in the world for quite some time, honestly. And I mean, it's crazy to think about, and it's wild, honestly.
He is. I think you could argue he's like, in some ways, I would argue he's the most complete top guy, like in his prime.
Yeah.
You think all the different things you can do with him, and if you imagine him in a context where he doesn't outgrow wrestling, and you just have The Rock as your top guy, he's your number one draft pick, I think, in a lot of ways. Because
absolutely.
I think in some ways, and I want to start arguing with Alex. I think he's like less. To me, Austin as a top guy is very of that moment in time. And I'm not saying The Rock isn't, but I could equally like imagine The Rock in the Dusty spot against the Horseman, and I kind of like. I think he would figure that out. And I think Austin would too. But I think Austin's presentation, I guess I would say, is more of its time and more kind of era dependent. So in that way, I kind of think if we had every wrestler on the board, as I think I have in the past on this platform, give me Rock, dude. You know, he's not going to go and make movies. I think he's built to be money in any era. And he also has like done in-ring live concerts, and they've been excellent segments, which is fucking insane, dude. Like, truly incredible talent, all-time great. Alex, what are you thinking?
I read the in-ring concerts. I regularly, again, this mean nothing to you, Joe, but I regularly go back to the one from 03 where he is in Sacramento and he said, "But I'll be sure to come back when the Lakers beat the Kings in May." And the crowd, you know,
That was that, and
Puerto Rico heat, man.
Yeah.
More context with that is that was, if you're familiar with NBA history and basketball history, the 02 playoffs the year before was
With the
when
ref,
the Lakers the refs literally stole the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like
Huge heat.
there's actual like evidence from the Tim Donaghy thing that like that game might have been gambled on. So like, yeah, like huge heat there. I just wanted to give the context on that because I'm a nerd, but
No, you're right.
Before I go into the Rock thing real quick, the Stone Cold thing that I hinge on so much is like, it is having lived through the mania of Steve Austin, like understanding how popular he was. I think that, yeah, crunching numbers and whatnot, I think The Rock obviously kind of came out the end a different tale, but in the moment, I've never experienced a wrestler that felt bigger than Steve Austin. But The Rock transcended wrestling, as Bobby said. And in 2025, I resent and I have a difficulty even wanting to discuss the idea of the American dream and American success stories and whatnot. But understanding what that means in a positive way and what it should mean, Dwayne Johnson is truly an American success story. He's someone that fell on his ass chasing his dreams and basically was given a second chance to do something new and use that to become, like, not kidding, literally like a globally renowned, known superstar and whatnot.
he only had $7 in his pocket, by the way. You know?
I've heard that before. You know, and I'm also not doing like rah the American dream, but it's just like what people tell you that is like what The Rock achieved. And
That's right, man. I think it's important to be sincere on occasion. We struggle with that sometimes, you know. It's fucking cool, dude.
Yeah. So, he's someone that I've watched since he started to now, and it still will seem surreal from time to time because Bob was right. There was like, Jesus, man, he still might be. There really are no movie stars anymore except Tom Cruise, but like he was the biggest movie star in the world and the highest paid actor for a while. And so, but he's still always been The Rock to me. He's the guy that, you know, checked his beeper and saw 316 and did that. Like it's always been a thing of grappling with. But as far as like a wrestler goes, one thing I don't know if we talked about enough in this, he could be legitimately funny, which is extremely rare in wrestling also. I think one of the hardest times I've ever seen my dad laugh at wrestling was during the heel Rock run, where he said, "Finally, The Rock's come back to Toronto," and the crowd went crazy, and he goes, "Oh, calm down. Haven't you ever heard someone say your city's name before?" "Oh, Toronto, that's where we live." And I call it out every chance I can. If you go back and watch any amount of the WWF in 99 to essentially present day, The Rock would bury the Big Show every chance he got on commentary, and it was fucking hilarious. Not commentary, but in interviews in any capacity. And being a big SNL fan, The Rock has a pretty storied history there. He has some really, really fucking funny skits on that. There's one he does where he's Bigfoot, and he's doing a duet album with Neil Diamond, played by Will Ferrell, and it turns out that Will Ferrell's just hallucinating because he's been like huffing paint thinner and shit. And The Rock, he can do it all, but it's also like having a window into the pro wrestling side of things. The four of us and the people listening to this have seen some of his habits, and like all that shit with Vin Diesel and whatnot. We're like, oh, there's the worker in Dwayne right there. There's the carny. So he's been an interesting fellow to watch develop. But from a wrestling perspective, man, just with the matches we talked about here, and bell to bell, we may not even have done his best matches. A guy who, once he figured out his connection with the audience, it never left him. And to this day, he can go out there and he knows what cards to play and how to do it. And I'm going to go back to that People's Elbow setup in that Backlash 2000 match. There's maybe 5 to 10 wrestlers in history that have been able to ever command a response from an audience like that. And he was one of them. And it's funny, coming off the heels of Paul London and some of these other ones that we've done before, of like talking about, this guy's place in history as a wrestler. And it's like, yeah, The Rock's like possibly the most famous wrestler that's ever lived.
Right.
But trying to put it in terms for us, he's really good. And he's been a fascinating case to watch unfold. And now my brain just wondered, the other guys, he's really good in that too. So I want to.
He is. To me, the magic of doing this show and talking about wrestling in general is that you can appreciate both those things equally. You can go, let's talk about Paul London for 3 hours and let's talk about The Rock, and it's like one and the same to me. It's all wrestling, right, ultimately. In Rock's case, it's gone beyond that a few times. But I have to say, folks, if you're still watching this very late, we appreciate it. This may be WrestleMania 3, dude. This might be our new king. We'll see. We'll see how the numbers unfold. But it may be. We may have a main event still ahead, though. I've got something up my sleeve. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not certain. We have a super chat from Will first, who says, Joe, your girl did it. New NXT champion, Double A won the big one. I saw someone reply, WrestlePurious did a tweet about like Joe Holbert stocks, and someone replied, he's going to be really mad when Jordan wins the belt. And I was thinking, why would I possibly give a fuck? Mad? Can you imagine me like texting in the group chat? They've took the NXT. It's not how my brain works. Just tell that to Nobi or someone. Thank you, Will. I appreciate you, brother. Very, very thankful. All right, I have a question for Bob. I have an announcement, and then we may have something up our sleeve. I'm not sure. Bob, this is for you. Is the wrestling business a complete and total work?
Yes, always has been, always will be. Every aspect of it.
Beautiful. Okay, next month's Grin Grappler is not a poll. This is not for us to debate. It is going to be the late, great Sabu next month's Grin Grappler. We don't know the format yet. We may go kind of Inoki with it and do less and just kind of talk broadly about him as a character and a presence. But next month's Grappler will be Sabu. Now, before we do plugs going out here, Contrarian Alex, am I right in saying that we are now a day away from your birthday? Am I correct in saying this?
Yes.
By chance, are you aware of maybe a parcel has arrived for you in the last couple of hours while before we went live? Have you heard about this? Is this something you can check to maybe see if this is the case? I think it might be the case. I don't know.
Something like in the mail?
Yes, in the mail. A parcel.
Okay. Yeah, I can go check. Do you want me to do that right now?
Is that okay? Alex, will some plugs while you do? Okay. Yeah. Alex is going to go check. If not, this is going to be a huge miss, but this could be a great high spot to take home. Go for it, Alex. Oracle, what do you like to plug, mate?
So, Thursday. What time, Joe?
I think about 9 Eastern, I think.
Thursday, 9 Eastern. Me, Joe, the young guns, anybody else who wants
Young
to join
Bucks.
Us? Young Bucks, yeah. We will be doing a live grin along of Action Wrestling's Dean 2.
Yes, sir.
It took place live outside of.
It looked beautiful too. Did you see the video?
Building.
Wow, it looked great.
Yes. Saturday evening. The stream debuted on the Ring of Honor channel this evening at 7 p.m. We will be doing a live grin along 9 p.m. Eastern, Thursday, May 29, I
All
believe.
members can get access to that, by the
All
way. So
members,
as low
yeah,
as
all-
$1.99 gets you in. Yes, sir. Beautiful. Should be great.
Friday, I will
Mhm.
be at SmackDown. However,
Yes, you
I
will.
will be sending in a bracket, and to help out the boys as they break down Buster's bracket.
Mm-hmm.
That will be the flagship at 11:05 Eastern, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. After SmackDown, yeah.
Yeah, after SmackDown. Gosh, I don't know.
If you can, it would be great if we can get when you get home, stop by and do a SmackDown review for us. That'd be incredible.
I intend to. Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah,
those are things I'm aware of for this week at least. So
I've heard this. Heard this. I'm going to do a solo tomorrow. I might do a double header, hold the house show and then the big two, and watch the JC match and that stuff. Our guy Riley Super Chat says, "Please get a new breed East Liberties from TV." I've heard this is great. So Alex mentioned maybe we'll do like an Inoki style 4-match, and I actually think we can easily just do 6 matches.
I remember watching it live actually.
Yeah, that match rules.
Yeah, so I think we can do this. I'm really hopeful Alex is going to return with a parcel because otherwise, we've not only wasted his time at this late hour, but we've really, we've ruined the finish, haven't we, of our match here, which is a terrible shame when you've gone 3 hours and 51 minutes.
Think about our last match that we covered. It's a bad thing.
Hey, good point. Good point. Bobby, what would you like to plug, mate?
Let's see. I'm not on the Late Night Grin this Friday, but Brainbuster's got his bracket out there. Check that out. I'm not here next Friday because I'm going to be in Ohio. The week after that, I believe, is the ECW One Night Stand Grin along. I'll be there for that.
We're going to try and get the Grappler crew on that, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're going to try and do.
There's a Vengeance Grin along, I think, the end of June. And then July the 4th, it's Bob's Barbecue, Late Night Grin. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have big ideas.
Yes, we do. I don't know any of them yet, but I informed Bob of this plan, and he said there's a lot we can do with this. And I thought, well, I'm glad someone thinks so. So I don't really know what we can do with it, but it does feel like the thumbnail will be good at least. I believe so. Alex, how are we looking here?
All right. Well, it's addressed to Contrarian Alex, I assume.
Let me give you a little bit more cameras. Oh, yeah, look at this. I was very fearful this hadn't arrived. I was going to say, this is a Late Night Grin birthday gift.
I just saw it said Kyrie Sane enthusiast.
Yeah.
Aww. The perfect segue too, man.
It is. I didn't want to spoil it by setting up our setting up too blatantly, but we have a birthday gift here for the great Contrarian Alex, who turns 25 tomorrow. He'll be reporting to the Performance Center in 20. There it is. Look at that. What a beauty.
Sabu. Man, that's a beauty. Yeah.
There you go, folks.
Fantastic.
That's on behalf of the Late Night Grin.
Thanks,
we
boys.
love the great Contrarian Alex. I took it out of Nobi's pay, so early happy birthday, Alex. And
thanks, bruv.
Fitting, we look ahead. Grin, Grappler, Sabu next month, end of next month sometime. Alex, please tell the people about the Contrarians and all that great stuff happening. Talking about movies, a lot of Dwayne content. Great time to plug it, bro. Go for it.
Yeah, I meant to kick off with this, but yourself, Joe, the Late Night Grin, we recently took part in the live stream for The Cure once again, and the Late Night Grin donated. And I do know there were a few people that tuned in from just the Twitter timeline that have probably come across me through this. So I appreciate the exposure y'all gave that and the attention you brought to it. As far as our current summer project is, we're going through MTV Movie Award winners and nominees. So far we've covered The Fugitive, which hilariously is the only film that Tommy Lee Jones has won an Academy Award for. Tommy Boy recently dropped. Our next episode is going to be Batman Forever, the Joel Schumacher classic. So a lot coming up over on our Patreon page. We talk about Brawl and Cell Block 99. Joe, have you ever seen that movie?
I have not. I know my brother was telling me about the conversations around it, I want to say, recently. Yeah.
It's
I can't remember what it was. Yeah. Came up.
Fascinating piece of business. But yeah, I guess we'll have to figure out something Dwayne to do here to coincide. But yeah, we are thecontrarians.com, at Contrarian Prime across social media. And yeah, the Contrarians on your podcatcher. Yeah, tough series. Julio put together a playlist over on YouTube also. So if you haven't listened to our Ultimate Fighter series, Tough 20, it's all there for you. And thanks in the chat for all the birthday wishes. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. A great time tonight. I knew this was going to be a long one, and it had to be, right? It's the final boss. It's the People's Champ. It's the Brahma Boy. It's Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Folks, we hope you've enjoyed this. If you're still here, you've spent nearly 4 hours with us on a Tuesday night, so we're very, very thankful. If you haven't already, please like the video. Comment which grapplers you'd like to see. That always interests me, because like sometimes they're names that I may just hand wave. You know, tell us in the comments if you want to. But either way, have yourselves a great night. I hope to see you tomorrow afternoon on LNG Gold, and all the other happenings. The bracket, the aforementioned Buster bracket with all sorts of wacky names and matches like Batista and Hiroki Goto and Eddie Guerrero and Sting and New Jack and Jay Briscoe, all of which will be tackled this Friday night live and free. Have a great night, folks. Keep grinning. All hail and enjoy this outro. Goodbye.